same as last year.
Wow, so. So. Tracy.
Yeah. It seems right.
Years.
John said it this one line, so
Super fast, thank you so much.
Think we have a call line? Do we have a call line? Thank you. All right, you guys ready to get started? We're recording now. And this is the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the the Seven Oaks Community Development District being held Wednesday, July 14th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Being held at the Seven Oaks Clubhouse located at 2910 Sports Court Circle, Wesley Chapel, Florida, 33544. Starting time at 6:30 p.m. Present representing quorum, we have Jack Christensen. Here. Joshua Green. Here. Tom Braff. Here. Andy Mendenhall. Here. Sean Graves.
Here.
With our district council, we have Vanessa Steinitz, clubhouse manager Teresa Flores, maintenance manager John Gentilla, and with district management Taylor Nielsen. This time we'll move into audience comments. Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Would you like to go first?
Can you do that? Couple of things. One, I think I had called perhaps you, left a message about, well, the topic of one of the last meetings was upgrading the signs around the traffic signs around the roads. And I had mentioned to you or one of your counterparts was about the no through traffic signs, upgrading those too, because those are, you know, old. I have sent an email through the CDD website to you, John, regarding emails. I understand there is no overall email role for everybody in Seven Oaks, and I thought one way of accomplishing that would be to require the submission of an email as part of the assessment role process, and adding that information to the assessment role, and stripping it off into a separate database for privacy issues if necessary. I haven't heard anything back on that. Not an issue that I think came up in another forum, John, you probably remember this, a woman who was very, very, very upset with cars parking at the end of her cul-de-sac to use the path to hang out, to get high, and park all over the place. Just as a suggestion, and again, this may cross between CDD and SOPA, just hire a cheap card with the authority to call up a booting service and boot the car. Boot the cars that are illegally parked. Now, this requires some judgment on the guard's part, and he would have to be, of course, authorized by us, the association, to do that. But all he would have to do is, hang out, 15 minutes, the car is still there, and those guys are still hanging out, getting high. Call the booting service, and then let them deal with the booting service from that point on. Because they'll leave a sticker on the car with a phone number to call to reclaim their car. And it might be worthwhile just Seven Oaks stickers on cars to prevent people, even like me, who park on the grass sometimes because I've got to repair a guy in the driveway just so I don't get my car moved. Anyway, I sent out a post on the Square Table Facebook page this afternoon, suggesting, there's a real good reason for coming to this meeting tonight, and it deals with depreciation, home property depreciation. It is a bit of research that I found as I pursue the case of the apartments up on Eagleston and DVD. As it turns out, even Realtor.com published an article that shows depreciation of 14% occurs in neighborhoods with apartments. It goes up to like 20% if there's a strip joint in the neighborhood. But for apartments, it's 14%. And believe it or not, 3% for hospitals because of the sirens and the helicopters flying in and out. But check it out on the Facebook page. The article itself is kind of entertaining, and there's a one-page graphic that shows the different depreciation sites. And the other thing is, with regard to S19, another bit of information I came up with in terms of research. Note, in Florida, organizations like ours, CDDs, are required to have a comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan has within it future land use policies. And within future land use policy, there is a stipulation requiring that developments that are proposed cost less to the county than they actually benefit. So the idea is a benefit cost analysis. That is backed up, and if that's not the case, it violates the comprehensive plan. That's backed up by Florida Statute 163, and I could give you the full citation of it. It's a 1993 decision, Ryan versus Snyder, I believe. Anyway, that states very clearly that the Florida Supreme Court rules that there shall be no development that costs more than it benefits the county that it's in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Rosenberg?
Hi, it's Jeff Rosenberg, Forest Edge, former CDD supervisor. So first of all, thanks guys for volunteering your time and dealing with all of us, and that's not easy. I am here because the other day I was on the cul-de-sac, Lake Valley Place, and one of the neighbors came up and said, CD's coming and ripping out the island. So I'm here to find out what's going on, if anything, what's the conversation, if you're thinking about modifying the cul-de-sac, or you're gonna come talk to the residents that live on the cul-de-sac for what you're thinking, timing, etc. So just trying to find out what's really going on.
Can you talk to John about that?
Yeah, there was a Facebook post on it yesterday, I think.
I don't do
But it's
social
been
media.
discussed
So,
for a few months now.
I would say go with John, he can give you all the details.
Yeah, Monday, I can give you all the details. There is a Facebook post that has it, but it's fine. I'd be happy to share it with you.
No, you guys need to come talk to the residents. Most of us aren't on social media. We don't do social. So I'm here. I mean, are you guys going to come talk to people directly impacts? There's people moving in. There's house renovations going on. So if you're going to be blocking the street, we need to know timings. Putting it on a Facebook page somewhere doesn't work, guys. Come on. So if you're talking like 4 or 5 houses, it's worth a phone call or whatever, and get the 4 or 5 houses together that live on the cul-de-sac and say, here's what we're thinking. What do you guys want to see input? I mean,
So if you're not on social media, that's okay, we don't find that. We try to increase the communication, so how could we get to you otherwise?
call me, send me an email. I'm not hard to find. Everyone here knows how to
That's
Reach
gonna
out.
be difficult for us to call every resident when any decision.
talk to 5 people on the cul-de-sac, 5 houses.
There's more than one cul-de-sac, it's a larger project, which,
Okay.
again, like, I
But
think
it's not been communicated. Well, I went in the meeting minutes, there's nothing. I sent an email to Taylor, is that right? He didn't respond. So we've tried to reach out. So is the answer yes? You guys are thinking about modifying the cul-de-sac? If so, how are you going to reach out to the people that live in that cul-de-sac that you represent? Besides a Facebook page. I mean, we need to know. So can we have a forum or a meeting or say, hey, residents on Lake Valley Place, it's your turn to come out and have the discussion?
So I think, well, double checking, can't really confirm, but it was an item that was up for vote. It was publicly discussed. It was probably in the minutes, just it's going to be submitted for this month, but it was on a previous agenda. So that public discussion has occurred. The project is underway, it's been announced, we have a contractor, and it's in process. So the recommendation is for you to sync up with our staff that, you know this, you're an LCD member.
Yeah,
Sync
but
up
you
with the staff and do
guys,
it.
you didn't come talk to the residents that directly impacts at all. So you made a decision about
I think
public vehicles
you
when you
misunderstand
represent
facts, which is not true at all. Residents actually brought this to us, it was in multiple meeting minutes. We had several public agenda items on it. Well, it was discussed.
not in our street.
Tom's Park employees, 3,500 homes in the state of it. The communication method is via our website and, via Facebook, and that's how we communicate. We can change that, we're open for it, but in regards to this project, is
But again, Jeff,
So Town Square sends me push notifications, right? So I get what the homeowner association puts out, but I don't get anything from the CDD, ever. And I know you guys didn't talk to anybody
There's also
on Lake
newsletter.
Valley
You
Place,
can sign up for the CD newsletter.
so I don't know how to do that. I've never seen that communication. Like I said, I don't do social media, and Facebook, and most people on my street don't.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Teresa can help you with the newsletter, John has all the details on the project.
so decisions made without the input of the people that it directly impacts. I just want to be clear on that.
The input.
No, you didn't come and take anyone's Lake Valley street
I
place
apologize that you don't feel like you provided your input from local residents did.
from Lake Valley Place. No, I know because they don't know what's going on. They were like, we haven't heard anything about it. So you didn't get input from the people that directly impacts.
Well, we got input from the people that said the thing was being chewed up by the refuse trucks and the garbage. I mean, that's who brought it to our attention.
Okay. That's fair. I'm not saying there's not a problem there, but
So I think some of the conversation actually happened on social media, so it came to our attention because of that. So there's somebody on your street with video of trucks that come by that don't have the potential to make that turn because it's not built the same way the other roads are. So it's a clear and obvious thing that we would need to address, so we did. And that isn't the previous meeting minutes.
oh,
I'm here to.
they can make the turn. They just don't want to have to back up.
Well,
and then go around.
If anybody parks on the street, there's not enough room anywhere. So
Right.
that was also discussed.
Yeah.
How to make sure it's not ugly, how to make sure it's passable, affordable, everything. So we did talk about that.
Can you give a 2-minute summary for Jeff as to how the new configuration?
Is it being wiped out? Is it just being shrunk? Is the palm trees being taken out? I mean, any information you can give us.
Number 2 is correct. The circumference is dropping down.
Okay.
Palm trees are staying.
Okay,
Grass is staying.
okay,
It's not being wiped out.
okay,
So you'll have a visible center median. It's just going to be smaller.
okay.
Just to open up the road.
And then are they gonna have to block off the road to make those changes?
No, the cul-de-sac will not be closed,
Okay,
but you may have limited access while they're there.
Okay, so can we get the dates? Because there's construction going on in the cul-de-sac through the summer, and
They start Monday.
yeah, that's gonna be a problem if they're blocking access to driveways and stuff.
Well, they're not intending to do that at all.
Okay.
So that's the thing. I mean, I don't know what their equipment is when they come in. They just said you may have limited access, but you will have access. Yeah, they're not closing the cul-de-sac.
Well, I hope the new neighbors when the moving truck shows up can get into their house, because they don't know this is coming. We didn't know. Appreciate if you'd return our emails, because I sent you
Yeah, I
an
just
email.
forwarded it to you. Yeah, I got it. I actually did reply, but I replied back to the forwarding service on accident instead of your email, so that's my mistake. There wasn't intent in a reply made, and you'll see it in your email now.
All right, thanks.
You can always call me anytime. That's the first question that John can as well.
Okay.
So we're not
Thanks, John.
trying to.
Call me, I can get you on email list too.
Okay.
Just a suggestion, a robo dialer. You can get a robocall service and handle situations like that for 12 cents a call without having any hardware involved. It's just a service.
We're gonna continue to move through these comments here. So John, would you like to,
Oh,
all right, Todd, Mr. Dilio, welcome back.
Great, thanks. Again, thanks for all your time and your volunteering. I know we got a ton of balances to do, and I appreciate everything you guys do for service here. I don't know if it's on the agenda elsewhere, but we're going back to revisit the fence, our current fence location and the requirement that was asked us to move because of the easement, even though it was approved. That was a year and a half ago. So we were tabled based on the outcome of the last meeting. My recollection, we can go back to the meeting minutes, was that we're going to postpone the standing request to have the fence moved until this call or this meeting. And then there were a bunch of action items to be held. One was that someone from the board was going to reach out to the HOA to confirm that the residents clearly understand when it's appropriate to be presented and make sure they get the CDD approval. And I think, John, you were the individual who are going to go back and say, we better check that list, because we went through that list and never was it presented to us. This was an appropriate fencing to be brought to the board, so that needed to be checked. I believe John were to visit, I think I saw you guys that next morning, to look at the current situation and to consider whether or not the easement 6 houses down would allow the appropriate access to get to the pond in question. I believe that happened. And the third task, I believe, John, you're gonna reach out to the contractor to validate whether or not he'd be willing to, with our permission, to open those gates and go back and forth in our. So I wanted to understand where we were with that, and then what the next steps were on this topic. I think I covered that correctly, right?
Yeah.
Regarding the HOA, just real fast, it is probably a good thing for someone to have in the process.
That's right.
I just want to make sure that there's no expectation from the CDD or from the county or any other, agency that would have jurisdiction over a piece of land, that I don't think there's an expectation of SOPA is giving their permission or overriding their capabilities, right? So the fact that SOPA gave you permission to install the fence within an easement doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have another entity such as us that comes in and says, we're going to exercise our right to that easement. So I just want to separate that SOPA discussion from the CDD and make sure that that doesn't impact this.
No, I
discussion.
understand. I think what I called into question is we
The
followed.
coordinating is good.
Well, we followed exactly the checklist. We had all the approvals from the homeowners.
I'm not disagreeing with that, yeah, but that's what SOPA, I guess, is my point with that, is your approval with SOPA doesn't impact the fact that we still have an easement that's registered
Right,
as
so,
part of your plotted land, et cetera, et cetera.
right, so the point for the last meeting was that someone from this board was coordinating with the HOA to understand that homeowners like myself would be knowledgeable that, oh, by the way, you better check here because of the easement. We had no idea.
Yeah,
So there's
and
a gap in that
as I mentioned,
process.
I think it's good for that coordination, just from the go forward perspective, just want to make sure
Yeah.
we separate that, that's what.
That's it. And that was the point we brought up.
We've done a revision on the AMR at least a half a dozen times in the last 10 months or 11 months, and that'll be another one. They have a checkbox, is that fences not to be placed on easement, just, so they check that off like I've checked it. Because that is the responsibility of the homeowner when they're doing their due diligence. They check the plat, make sure that on either side, they're not on an easement. So when they go to put it in, they know that that's either a pond easement or a utility easement or something.
So John, my question to you is, how is a resident to be informed or educated when HOA doesn't have it and we get approval by them, we get approval by the county, we get permits by the county? How would a homeowner know, oh, by the way, you better check because you're on the easement? I'm just wondering,
Well,
you
you got-
say due diligence,
no, on
I'm
your-
saying,
on your-
how do we understand?
On your plot for your deed, it'll have the easement.
No, I understand that, but as a resident, how am I educated enough to understand when I go through a homeowner's architectural review list?
Mhm.
Oh, are you on an easement? If it's not listed there, how am I supposed to know? I've got to figure out whether or not I can put a fence there or not. Where's the residential education?
I think that's what Jack is mentioning, is gonna be added to the.
It basically says you're
Right, so it'll be added from now going
Yeah,
forward. But the problem now is that the easement's blocked. Originally, the board decided there's gonna be 7 foot removed from either side. It's a 14-foot easement. Last meeting, we talked with Mr. Gilio, and we were going to come back and look and see, okay, do we need 14 feet or can we do less? And, talk to the vendors, see how much room they need. I think we agreed on, we said 10 foot is what they would be comfortable with. So at this point, the board just needs to decide how much room we need, because we.
It'll leave you with, I think, 6.5 feet and your neighbor with about 6 feet. There's a few inches difference by putting that 10-foot channel in the middle.
Just to clarify, John, you probably spoke with the contractor, so the 2 other points that you brought up.
Right.
The one was whether they had another point of access that they could use, and did they respond back on that?
Well, there is nothing,
There is
that's
Okay.
the only platted easement.
Got
for
it.
that particular pond.
Okay,
So they can't go down 6 doors over, tend to that pond, and follow like they usually do, the back of the homes to get to the pond in question?
I can go pull my easement map real quick, but I don't believe there was an easement access down the street, I think.
We looked at the other end, like the 3 or 4 houses up from you. There's something to go through. There's no easement there for the go.
No, I'm
through.
saying it would be west, southwest. 6 houses on the other side, southwest. They have an easement to address that pond. And there's a track along all the wetlands that carries right into the wetland to service the pond behind us.
Are you talking on the other side of the pond?
No, I'm talking about 6.
Okay, well, I can just go.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I can just pull the map, but I'm pretty confident that was the only access point for
Okay.
that particular pond.
and so the third point you brought up, I think you might have misunderstood that, because the point you brought up was whether the contractor would be willing, if you put a fence in, or a gate rather, to go in and close the gate.
That's right.
And I do recall we discussed at the last meeting that we didn't want to go that route. Number one, the contractor would not want to take on that with the liability.
No, that was the point. Did we ask the contractor that
Well,
exactly?
so let me weigh in on that as well. That was the one point, but I don't think we as a board would want to potentially bear that liability also, because if something did go wrong, you can be sure that the district would be wound up being brought into it. So it's the same kind of issues. That's just my.
The other problem is if we change vendors and different things like that.
The key thing is just to get the fence moved the appropriate distance, and we actually made an offer that which the Soka board is still gonna honor, is to pay for that fence to be moved. So it's not gonna be expensive to you, you're just gonna have to have less land inside the fence, but as far as costs on it, you're not gonna bear any expense on it.
All right, so what was the final decision then? I mean. is
Well,
that the
we have
decision?
a meeting, a week from Tuesday, so the next SOPA meeting, that the details of that will be worked out, and then you'll be communicating with when it's going to be moved back. But I'm sure we can get it sometime in August. Be able to do it.
I guess I misunderstood the letter. The letter here I received that was certified was to ask to join this meeting today to further discuss this point. So you're saying this is not the meeting that.
I see your letter, I don't,
I think there's 2 points though, right? One is the CDD does need to say that our official stance is needs to be the 10-foot gap in the easement. Step 2, Jack, what you're referring to would be whether someone's gonna officially vote to take that cost on or not. Right, those are the 2 points.
Right.
So at the CDD meeting here, we do need to vote on making the decision.
Yeah, let's
And
go.
someone's gonna make their cost decision. So.
Unless you want to postpone it for the HOA to discuss what they're discussing, but it sounds like Jack's saying that they're agreeing to pay for
so
it.
SOPA's gonna pay for it.
Okay, so we just need to decide how much room we
Obligated to.
Regardless, it's not hard, but regardless of cost, the city needs that access, right? So from a board's perspective, we should vote to ensure that easement is clear, right?
Yeah.
If someone chooses to cover the cost or the owner has to cover the cost, kind of secondary concept of the fact we have to have that resolved in the CDD.
And John, this easement here does not allow them to follow the track to access the common question. This is us here, this easement here. There's an easement here, 6 blocks down or 6 homes down, that has that trail that comes all the way behind all these homes, follows all the way back right to the end of the wetlands.
I didn't see any clear that you can get behind this gentleman's house, your neighbor here.
No, you have, there's at least 7 to 8 feet between the tree line and all property lines across all 4 of these houses right up to the other lake here.
You know, take a look. But this doesn't matter. The map that I have that shows our legal access points, I don't know if that exists in that spot.
All right. So the next steps are, gentlemen, and members of the board.
So I'll make a motion that we require the 10-foot clearance for the contractors.
I'll say,
And the 10 foot is arbitrarily decided?
no, they went out and looked and decided that's.
They
not-
are, who is they?
The vendor.
Which
No.
vendor was that?
John and I went out and looked and decided 10 feet would be.
So it's the vendor or John and?
No, the vendor,
No,
I did ask the vendor how much space they need. 10 foot was the minimum.
10 foot's the minimum?
And just to be clear, our easement right is what width?
I don't know exactly what it is.
I just want to understand the yard economy, so you're small enough.
Originally, it was 7 foot on your side for a.
Yeah, I think it was a little more than the 10.
And as discussed last meeting, we reviewed the actual plots by the Pasco County, and the easement is actually 25 feet, which is exactly from one wall to the house to the second wall of the house. So that gives us absolutely no property on either side of our walls. Is that what we're saying with the easement?
no.
So I appreciate you're able to come in
I
14
think there's 2 points. The answer is yes, you bought a property with an easement that has that. Unfortunately, we can't change that for you.
Understood, understood.
What his point is that we are making it so that we're trying to meet you here in the middle. So instead of taking your entire yard from you, which is, yes, technically what we're being allowed to do in this situation, we're only gonna take 5 feet from each of the property owners, right?
Okay.
So that's the gap. You need 10 feet, that's 5 feet from each property.
It was like it was like 26 feet and you put the 10 at 16, but when you measure it from his wall to your wall, you're both about 8 feet. One's like 7.5, the other is 8 feet, with 10 feet being in the middle. Like, that encompasses the full 26.4 inches or something. I got the figures out of my pad at home. I didn't bring mine.
So it sounds like we're gonna have to move the fence 10 feet.
No, no,
5 feet.
5 for you and 5 for your neighbor.
Got it.
That's all it's.
All right. And then the cost, my understanding is what?
CDD, or the SOPA will pay for the redo of the fence.
All right.
And I think officially it's probably safe for us to say that at the SOPA meeting, we'll discuss and vote on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not the city's purview to say that another entity will or won't pay for it, right?
And then the only other task, I believe, outcome that we wanted to find out is why it took 1.5 years for this to come up.
I'm sorry, I can't.
On one of the other action items from the meeting last time was, why did it take 1.5 years for this topic to come up, and now we're being asked 1.5 years later to build the fence?
Can't help you with that.
We acted on it when the vendor notified us that they needed access to the pump. They might not have needed access prior to that, I'm not sure. But
So they did need access on a weekly basis, or they didn't for 1.5 years?
They
We're
check,
getting different communication
check it.
problems here.
they check it, and it sounds like honestly, maybe they didn't go back and do their job the whole time. So you got lucky, I would say,
Okay.
but then eventually we do need access to it.
But there were some
They
other
start that,
neighbors
so.
to the northeast of you, I think, wouldn't that be right? That were complaining about the pond, the condition of the pond, why wouldn't that be maintained? That's what kind of triggered it for us.
That's typically what winds up happening. Somebody will get a phone call that, hey, the pond's looking bad, and then probably because the contractor hasn't been going out there as much as they should, and, you know, they get in touch with John, and then we find out, oh, okay, well, here's why the vendor's not coming back, it's blocked, and
Because the fence was put up, yeah.
And 2 days ago, that neighbor called again and wanted to know where we stood. And I told him,
you know, they
probably be discussed at the meeting.
I do, well, we have a motion pending, we haven't had a second yet.
We did have a second.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's it.
okay, so before the vote, I also just want to clarify, especially while you're still here, if there is, am I hearing that there is going to be an encroachment permitted to a lesser extent?
you know, we need some sort of easement agreement.
We would need an easement encroachment agreement, which basically would provide that, you understand that your fence is an encroachment in the district's easement area, and if for some reason that the district needed to have access greater than that area, that 10 feet, that if the district had to remove that fence for any reason, that the district would be able to do that for maintenance purposes. I'm hoping that would never be the case given the situation, but it is part of the formalities, and because there's an easement of record, that encroachment agreement is recorded in the public records.
Okay.
So that goes with the easement document itself. So we would need to prepare that and make sure that, I would need those specifications for the fence, just to make sure that everything is included in the agreement. So, as soon as we could get that, that would be better as well.
As a matter of fact, you said your wife keeps meticulous records. You've got the contractor that did the original fence. Is he still?
Gen X is the name of the company, I have the number.
Which one?
Gen X Fence.
So I think we would want to use him
I would think that makes sense, yeah.
to redo it.
And if I may, the agreement will also stipulate the district to take on the cost of the,
No, the district won't, so,
no, I'm talking about the easement agreement. If there came a time where the district needed, then
No, the district would not have those costs.
That would be any relocation and replacement would be at your cost.
so again, here's a very important element to understand. We've done our due diligence. And going forward, I understand this particular scenario would be common. But as a homeowner, a year and a half later, when we thought we did our due diligence and had everyone sign multiple times, including getting permits from the county, I'm gonna be slapped with a potential cost.
That would be in the event that the district
Understood.
is required to remove it. It's a very standard
well,
provision. in
can you think of a
easement
reason why the district would need access beyond the 10 feet?
That's an operational question.
You have some sort of
Typically,
erosion repair, maybe a very wide
Right.
machinery.
And in the rare
Yeah.
case that it's required,
It's,
I understand, but the fact still remains, if that rare case occurred, it's my expense now. When we've done our due diligence.
It's not that it's now, that's how every homeowner, and that's how land works.
No, I'm not debating that. What I'm debating
That's
is
what I'm saying, is
that
that-
as a board
I
and
know
an
it's
HOA,
a
we
provider
would
that
expect,
suggests to you.
we would expect you guys and the board
Florida
to
law
provide
by
the
law, right? So
Florida law does?
I understand what you're saying, but an easement is
No, no,
something that isn't us.
I'm not saying it's you, what I'm asking you is that the residents
Yep.
should be informed by
I
the two
understand.
parties that we
By-
put our
By
trust in.
purchasing that property, that's how you're informed. I'm sorry that may not be sufficient, and so it is gonna try to go above and beyond to educate from an AMR perspective. But the land you purchased, which has nothing to do with us, that's right, you're a realtor, the buyer, the seller, the
Completely
developer.
understand.
That's
Not
what I-
arguing that.
But I feel like you are.
Not arguing that, I'm arguing the ability and the responsibility
You
to make
buy
sure
it.
the individuals in a case scenario.
As a homeowner, that's your responsibility, that has nothing to do with CD, I'm sorry.
As a homeowner.
So it was addressed
When later.
when, and I want to separate because we are not the SOPA. So they did address it and they are in the next meeting about putting the extra wording in the approval process. So moving forward,
We
you
solve the
did
issue.
fix the problem.
Solve the issue.
But looking backward, I mean,
But it doesn't do me any good in looking for a grandfather clause somewhere that allows me, a responsible resident of Seven Oaks, who did their due diligence, followed everything we were supposed to, had all the, not to have an impact on some agreement, should this rare occasion have, that it's not gonna cost me.
But you
Not
have-
to mention a public record.
but you would have that,
Problem.
if you had filled out everything correctly, and you had your fence where you, in the proper spot from the beginning, and then you came to us and said, you know, I have a couple dogs, I'd like to move my fence out a foot, we could still give the additional. That easement agreement is because we're allowing you to encroach on something that the district has the rights to.
Understood? I get it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't solve my specific scenario.
It doesn't, and to be honest with you, I actually disagree with my other board members. The SOPA checkbox is not gonna fix this.
No.
Either,
It would certainly help.
All it's going to do is highlight that there's something else that you might need to do, it's not gonna fix it.
That's all I'm asking.
So from a grandfather perspective, there is nothing before or after what SOPA does to this that's gonna change the fact that when you buy land, it's part of the land, right, type of concept. So that's the thing that we understand that, you know, this checkbox could help from an education perspective, or point you somewhere else. Just want to make sure that it's not a solution, right?
It's not a solution.
Yeah, easement's a concept, separate concept.
I
And
think-
so, one last thing, Jack, I can say, there are plenty of people that have fences that are in CDD easements, right? It's not an unstandard concept. The reason why you're here, and I think, you know, the emotional side of it, and obviously the monetary side of it is kicking in, is because we're exercising that easement. it's quite rare that we need to exercise that,
Right.
right? There's typically workarounds, there's other things we can do, and that's what the staff has been trying to do. But I just want to make sure you know you're not unique in your situation of having a fence over our easement or the encroachment concept. We have many, homes that have that, and so again, from the SOAP perspective, it's not necessarily my previous house in Seven Oaks. We had a fence that was over there, and it was somebody didn't tell me, but I knew it from just being a landowner and knowing that not only could the CDD come in, the utility company could come in, right? Pasco County could come in. So even though they granted me the permit, there's still other entities that have the ability of coming in and just like she described, technically taking my fence down with zero notice and then giving me the bill for it. Now, that's unfortunate, but it is a reality. It's not just unique to us, and it's not just unique to your property. So I just wanted to also share that.
No, I appreciate that. You must have much better education being a landowner than I, but it doesn't solve
It's
the
just anymore, but yeah. It doesn't solve it. I don't think it is. It solves it for you.
No, of course, I'm not.
The solution is.
I don't think the SOPA doesn't want to take the responsibility of doing all the homework that a homeowner should do. You say, what should a homeowner do? Educate yourself. I mean, first, knowing that there's.
I'm not gonna now stand here and be lectured. What I'm asking is that we have a process break. Everyone has acknowledged that the process is broken. Putting a checkbox regarding fence and easement goes up.
For clarity, I do not acknowledge we have a process break. I think that will help. It will not fix it. It's not a process break.
Look,
The CDD has an easement on your land, and that's it.
I think I'm sure I should water.
Yes.
yeah, I agree.
So
So,
don't use anything against our words of saying that there's a fault here with that. The CDD has identified that you're encroaching on our land. We're giving you proper notice and trying to work with you to fix that solution. And that's the end of it. There is no process break. Nobody did anything inaccurately here.
so you believe the process doesn't need to be improved?
CDD's process did not fail here. There's nothing from the CDD's
That's not what I asked.
But I'm on the CDD board. I'm sitting in the seat right now telling you the CDD's process did not fail here.
And me as
So,
a resident,
you can discuss.
of you as a board member for this resident, you're
For the
telling me
CDD, I am telling you.
you don't feel that there's an improvement that could be made.
I do not speak on behalf of SoCo.
I'm not asking you on behalf
You
of
are.
SoCo.
You're asking me to ask for another entity, and I'm glad to. CDD's process worked here, it's working right now. And we're discussing it. We're granting you extra time in this meeting to discuss it and educate you and do everything with it.
All right.
You can discuss with SoCo on what their process is.
Now, we'll be discussing with a much bigger firm than SoCo.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and what are the next steps?
I think we just need to close the vote, right?
Correct.
As far as this resolution here, yes.
Yeah.
There should be an amendment to the motion to have the easement drafted.
No.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so to be clear again, that's a 5-foot withdrawal from each side of the easement for a total of 10-foot easement. And an easement encroachment agreement to be drafted by Vanessa. All in favor?
And again, just so I'm clear on the there's not gonna be a grandfathering about who takes on the cost in the rare occasion when that has to be moved, is that correct?
That's not CDD business, that's simple business.
Well, with
I
the
thought you
amendment,
just
with the
said the
amendment,
agreement.
we're not creating a grandfather or anything. I don't think you're getting.
The agreement is simply because that's not our easement, that's a county easement, but we have rights to it. We can't say that the county's gonna pay for it if they come in and tear up the land, and we're not gonna offer to do it either.
So who owns the easement?
The county.
But the county approved the fence location.
No, county.
Well, if you got a permit from them, again, they don't not give you the permit because of the easement. The easement is in case they need to access it. You can put stuff in the easement typically.
At the end of the day, it's the homeowner's responsibility on your property line. That's like if you would have built a fence on your neighbor's property and they came back and said you can't do that.
Yeah, we built a fence on the property line.
You can build an easement, there's nobody telling you that you can't do that. We're saying that now we need the access, we need to move, and that's what the easement allows.
And the cost will be incurred by who?
That's not decided here. They will decide that at this open meeting.
But you're ahead of the game, man. I mean,
You're getting everything you want.
you're
A mistake was made.
you're getting a pass.
When's this open meeting? When's that meeting?
The last Tuesday of this month. Be the 27th, I believe.
Yeah, I understand it's been a pain, but I feel like everybody's tried to accommodate as much as possible too.
All right.
I don't know what else we could do.
No, I agree. I think what I didn't care for was being lectured. You know, being an uneducated landowner.
You just asked me how to educate you, and I educated you, and now.
No, I didn't ask to be
educated.
educated. No, that I did not.
I think you did, we can play back on the tape later, You said, how would we educate you as a homeowner as a landowner? You just describe that to me.
Be a landowner and you should be out of that anyway, so.
So there
trying to
it
do here. So I appreciate the time, I appreciate the collaboration and cooperation. So next step is I'll sit down the meeting coming up to understand who's incurring the cost.
And Taylor will follow up with the agreement.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. and Ms. Harding, would you like to take a few minutes to speak to the board?
First of all, I want to say something positive.
Thank you.
You put a crosswalk out in front of Fairgate, which is where we live, and I'm ever so appreciative. The cars don't always stop for it, but I feel better at least being acknowledged that I'm allowed to walk across there with my dog. So thank you for the effort. And I would like to see more speed tables, but the two that you put in are great. So, anyway, we live in Fairgate, we live next door, we live on lot 5, we live next door to lot 6, which I'm sure most of you know where that is. It's a cleared area next to our house. Most areas that are unbuilt on next to people's houses are wooded. This one is cleared. And we've lived there for 4 years now, and we put up a fence, which has been nice because at least it delineates between that and our yard and our backyard. But we're now going to put in a swimming pool and suddenly realize that we have a big open space next to us that you can actually see in our backyard from the road. And we also have people in the neighborhood who use that piece of property for various and sundry things. You know, some of it's just kids on bicycles stopping there to throw frisbees, some of it's, anyway, I sent a letter with all the details of all of that. But there's, two things I think that we're down to at this point. What is that piece of property for? And what are, as the people, the only people living next to it, what is our expectation of the use of that piece of property? Is that public property and we can just have people roaming up and down behind our backyard? And 2, I just feel there needs to be some statement about, because I looked on the whole neighborhood and I could only see one other place where there was a mowed open piece of property, and that was over here. And the 2 houses that were next to it had tree barriers between them and the mowed space. We don't. We have nothing between us and the mowed space and the street. So as far as privacy, it would be better for us if there was a house there, because then there would just be a house there and not and a piece of property that we don't, we know it's not ours, but and that we have no control over it, but we don't know what it's supposed to be used for. And is there any way that there could be some consideration? Because we put up a fence, we did it according to the rules, and of course I don't want to get into that, but it's a 4-foot fence that doesn't provide you much privacy. It just keeps the dogs inside. So, I sent a letter. I think you attached a picture of I think our situation is a little bit unique to everyone else's. Most of the other common spaces are all wooded, and nobody would be using a wooded area anyway, but ours is not wooded. So anyway, you know, I don't know how much further you want me to get into it. We sent a letter, I believe we sent it on. So we just like some consideration for the fact that we feel like a little bit right now like we live in a fishbowl. And we didn't really notice it so much until two things. One, until we decided to put a pool in, and we started looking at that space and going, oh, we can see in our neighbors' front yards. That means that they can see in our backyard. And two, in the last 6 or 8 months, there have been more planned events that happened down there on that property, not things that just were on a, you know, kids driving by, running up and down. There have been planned events there where people got together and did things there, which again, I have no problem with people being, you know, neighbors in a neighborhood. It's just, I feel like we need to have some expectation about what to expect over there outside of our master bedroom bathroom.
Thank you.
Going back to the history on this lot has been proposed at least twice, and or it could be three times, to put in a park that Fairgate doesn't have, with swings and everything like that. And the board never felt the obligation to put that in. It was a deficit of Crown when they developed. They decided not to put one in.
No, I know.
And so we didn't feel that the resident board was under any obligation to, if you want to say, make up for any deficits that Crown did. But when people bought the house, they had children knowing that they would not have if they lived in that neighborhood, they wouldn't have a finished.
There's not a playground there, and yet there are people still using that property on an ad hoc and sometimes on a planned way.
And I don't know that that's gonna cease. It sounds to me like they're trying to make a lemonade out of a lemon there, so it's a wasted piece of land. I wish the Crown would put another house there, quite frankly, but they didn't. But what I think you're asking for is to cover from the back of your house to the woods with maybe a set of viburnums or something that in a couple of years they'll shoot up high and will give you that.
Well, yes. And the second thing is, you know, you're not supposed to put anything more than a 4-foot fence up. Is to put up a 6-foot privacy fence.
Can't do that. You can't put a privacy fence behind the house when you're on a conservation area, but you can plant trees.
Okay.
Or the CDD can plant viburnums on there. I don't know what the cost would that be. 6 or 8 trees to cover it from the back of their house. They kind of put up.
Probably need a few more than that. I mean, my guess would be here $1,200 to $2,500, depending on, you know, how many we actually put in. But the issue that we have, there's no irrigation there.
Yeah, I'm not sure that going down the route of the CDD expense for it. I mean, you know, most homes that have that view, you know, will put buffering inside of their property line to buffer, right? Like you said, viburnums or something else that kind of grows tall. I think, so you got two things, if I understand correctly. One is, what's the use of the property, who can use it? And two is, there's an issue we can address. So please correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's CDD property, it's common space, and it's no different than one of the parks or any other, you know, sidewalk areas or anything else from CDD public property, is that it's public property. And so the CDD owns it. Anyone can technically go there unless we have a specific policy against it. The only one that I think would come close that I can recall would be parks closed at dusk, right? I think that's the closest one that we would have. But it is public property and
Well, so is the woods, but nobody uses those.
well, but them using it or not is kind of irrelevant, unfortunately, in the discussion. Is that it is common public space, but as a public organization, we can restrict it, make it private anyway. We have some, I mean, when we talk about the clubhouse, it's technically public property, so we can put
That's
some.
we don't live next to.
We can put some controls in place with gates and fees and stuff like that, but we can't turn the general public away, right? Type of thing. It's public property, so unfortunately, I don't think we can help if we wanted to on that. I'm not mistaken on that. From the what could we do perspective, I mean, we could go back into a discussion of doing something with that area. I agree with Jack, is that discussion has come up and down several times. And I think what we landed was that if the neighbors that wanted to put the funds together to do something, then the CDD would support that effort, and work with them to grant permission, for example, if they want to put benches or some other sort of park in there, but the board has historically voted against expending other funds beyond that, because there's really no cohesive agreement with all the neighbors on what that area would be. So it sounds like the best option you have is to put buffering in on your side of the property line, such as some back roads or something tall.
It would be appreciated, yes.
Yeah.
But that
Well,
would,
not the
you know,
bigger, you could do it, I'm saying like,
for us to do it?
well, it's your property, sure, yeah. So you could even put
Well,
some bushes in or something like that, right? And you work with your landscape team, if there's nothing, that would just all go through SOPA, that has nothing to do with.
Well, I think there's another option. You can just let it grow wild. I mean, you put trees and just let it grow like the other ones. You're not obligated to mow it because you don't mow anything else. So I'm just saying, there is another option. Where you can,
I hear what you're saying. I don't know what to do.
So, I'm not saying.
Planting trees and making it a wooded area,
Just make it a wooded
I'm not
area.
sure. I mean, there's still cost of maintenance and stuff like that that goes into that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a wide open area, and to turn it into a wide wooded area, number one, would be quite a long time. Number two, there is no irrigation in that area. So for the CDD to do a planting and then maintain that planting so it survives, we don't even have irrigation to do so.
But the irrigation, you have irrigation lines going back along that fence line, inside.
Inside.
Does it spray, would it spray over 2 or 3 feet if there were viburnums planted on the other side?
It could be made to do it, but I don't know, if that's the solution. I think what we want to do at least just present the problem tonight. Yeah.
Can you help me understand why planting a couple of viburnums along your property line, I mean, that's a solution you could do without really anyone else's input. Why would that solution not be sufficient?
Well, it's better than nothing. It's just that it's even a few viburnums that are gonna grow up in the next 3 to 5 years aren't providing much for us right now.
Understood, but it would be a long-term solution, right? And my current home is on the corner, and I'm back at Ancient Oaks and a gate, and that was the only solution I had, was to put in.
But most of the houses on the gates have some sort of break between the,
Yeah, somebody at some point put them in, those types of things.
Well, the part of the issue is we really don't have a problem with kids playing and whatnot. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is nobody else has that. And so what happens is when you have 2 houses side by side, you can't see in the backyard.
Yeah.
So when you do that, so it's either that or come off our lot and go across so people can play in the front where it's not going back. So I'm just saying there's several things that we'd probably like to explore.
Yeah.
But we felt like we needed to come in and just talk about it because unfortunately, all of this was done before we ever bought the house. And we realized there was even an issue when we bought. I mean, nobody said people trying to make it into a playground and all that. We're having to.
Which is one of the reasons why we struggle to approve that. I mean, obviously, I agree with the rest of the board. It sounds like in this solution, in this scenario, when there's usually no other option but the CDD to inject and, put money in and maintain it, then I'm typically in favor of that. It seems like you have a solution yourself, is to put the viburnums in, you can get them at different heights, right? You don't have to get a 1 gallon viburnum.
That's one solution.
Yeah, so
that puts all the burden back on us.
Well, but the burden is on you, I guess. I don't know that I'm accepting it.
Nobody else has that in the neighborhood. Anyway, I don't want to argue.
You did buy the property with that scenario, I guess.
Yeah, and so I don't know.
You have a fair say, I guess, to the case.
I'm just saying, I don't know why it was clear,
Yeah.
nothing else was,
So,
and so.
But I think Jack said it was,
Sure.
That's it.
But at the same time, nobody else, the houses down against the wooded property don't have that problem because somebody didn't decide. To be clear, because I'm just saying.
But I just want to be clear again, there are many property owners who had the same situation. It may not be a lot next to you, but they had a scenario where they needed privacy, and the answer was put vegetation on the property.
I think that's an option that we can
Yeah.
consider, but we also want you guys to consider several different options here. That's all.
No, so the other thing to consider, to the previous person's issue, you might be on an easement as well. There's a drain on the left side of your driveway, or on the left side of your property. So you might want to make sure that stays clear.
This one basically is.
Or just look at your property line. Just
Do what now?
look at your property line, unlike the previous person here.
Oh, yeah, but you've got so much room to get back where you want to on the one side. You
No, I
can
don't, I'm
go
just
all the
saying,
way
whatever
around.
you put there, just make sure it's on your property, so there's not the same issue that we just talked about.
Well, it's already been approved, like he said, so we'll have to.
Is your fence right on the property line?
Yes.
So my point is, right on their property line is also what I would expect to be an easement, because there's a drain right there, right back to the pond. So it probably isn't necessary, like the gentleman, but
Yeah,
it's something
it's-
that you
it's-
should consider.
It's probably a few feet off the drain,
Yeah.
but you've got plenty of room to get back there.
I think we can keep moving forward, keep getting
Yeah.
that in here.
All right, I feel like, you know, with all due respect, I feel like you have the solution within your hands to solve this. The common area is the common area, we can't change that, and putting CDD funds doesn't sound like it's the path to go.
As I said earlier, there have been a lot of residents that have asked to come in and remedy their lots after they bought them, because thinking that the CDD overlooked, or the Crown overlooked this. We had one bought a lot, particularly back in Watermark, at the very end of cul-de-sac. And there were some trees that were removed back there 100 yards away, but it exposed him to Bruce me down. He wanted the CDD to plant like 20 trees across down, so he didn't have to look at the trucks out on the highway. But why would you expect to have public funds to improve your yard? I mean, I just can't do it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. John?
Thank you, guys.
But I can tell you, a privacy fence will not fly. You can't put up 6-foot fence. You can put screening, but you can't put a fence. That would fly right in against SOPA's regulations.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry? Yep, I'll try and recognize the 3-minute time limit. First, I want to say thank you to Josh. I know there's going to be thank yous and congratulations at the end of the meeting whenever we recognize that you're leaving your position, your seat. But, you know, for the past 6-7 months, you know, it's been really great working with you through email to try and understand how this whole show works. And I'm still learning, so I just wanted to say thank you. It's, you're going to be missed. I'm severely worried for, you know, what's going to happen after your loss.
Good.
The other thing is, just because, you know, I'm listening to this and, you know, I'm always looking for opportunities for us to, you know, educate more residents. You know, obviously using the example of that, the gate and the fence situation, you know, we need to work better from the resident council perspective to, you know, educate people. It's a hard sell whenever you say, hey, as a landowner, you should know this. There's a lot of things that you don't learn until, you know, it happens to you. And then you're like, hey, don't forget this. One of those would be, in this case, we're talking about what's defined as a common area. So like if you look at the plats and you look on Pasco's website, and you can actually do the filters and it'll show you where the easements are, like the utility easement that's 6 feet beyond the sidewalk that goes right by this property for utilities. It can be dug up. So for instance, the Little Free Library that we installed, if that, you know, needed to be pulled up for a utility easement, you know, we understand that. We understand that little bit of rule because of what we've learned over the past couple of months with the fences and that kind of stuff. The other part is the common area is owned by the CDD. And in the installation of the pool, or, you know, in the case where large construction vehicles or something have to go over that property, you know, there would probably have to be a request for permission to use the property for access rights. And then going back to the AMR, you need to be able to put the property back to its original state. So any type of elevation or thing like that. The last thing is, you know, I hate losing time, and I know that probably on the next meeting we're going to talk about these things. Just using the last 45 seconds. Multi-year project to fund and schedule the replacement of the village playgrounds. I sent out the email, provided links to it. It's atrocious. You know, John has done a great job of fixing and repairing, but whenever you fix something that goes into a base that's, you know, falling apart, it needs to be corrected. The playgrounds are terrible. I'm sure, Sean, you know, Springwood, you know, it's one of the worst. The other thing is additional speed tables. Maybe the engineer will talk about it today. We really want 2 more. Palmetto Bend Gates, if we can have more information at a later date, that'd be great. A lot of residents asking for that. A lot of residents also saying they don't want it, so we understand both sides. Lakeside signage, one-way, no entry. People go in, they pull to the left. You're not supposed to do that. People tend not to know that. People were complaining about that. And then, as Patrick alluded to earlier, additional security. It was related to the fences, but it was because a lady said that she doesn't want to be the first case of something going wrong with being on the trail or having people park in front of their house that shouldn't have access to the trail. So I'm sorry, 5 seconds over. Thank you, thank you.
Just one of those, because I don't think it'll come up for us, is the lakeside topic needs to be discussed with the lakeside HOA, because they own that land that's inside the gate there.
Yep, so because it was the signage, again, I brought it to staff first, we discussed it, we thought maybe it was gonna be something here. If it's only for a lakeside HOA, then I'll bring it up to the
Unless
resident.
somebody tells them wrong, I'm pretty sure.
I did send an email to Tanya, but I did not get a response from her because I am not clear whether or not the street directional signage is CDD property
Yeah, right.
or not because of their own HOA.
I have to look at, my understanding is everything inside the gate is theirs.
Yeah.
Even so street sidewalks, that's why they have their own parking policies and they have their own parking stuff like that, so. Happy to be wrong on that, but my understanding is that lakeside should be just them, I think.
I'll let the resident council person know if that's what they need to bring up. Thank you, thank you.
Sir, I saw you come in late. Did you have a comment for the board or are you just watching today?
My name is Dilip Desai and I have been told by Tom, my neighbor, that you're opening for, I'm not sure whether it's in CDD or SOPA for the member.
Yeah.
So I just sent you the resume.
Yes,
I say I just will show up,
Okay,
but you can tell me more.
thank you. Yeah, we'll be going through that shortly. All right, so we're going to move to the reports at this time. John, if you'd like to go first.
Okay, so you can see my report, continuing on the palm tree trimming and debooting. Pool deck is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week, so the pool deck will be closed down while the trees are trimmed and debooted. So that's just moving forward. We did have the sod contractor here earlier this week, so we have about 9,000 square feet of sod coming to help with some of the sod we did lose during the drought. It's just going through its paces, but it will come. Flower rotation, Monday, new flowers show up. So it'll be a summer color mix, as it says, so it'll be a variety of colorful flowers. And that begins Monday.
I don't mean this facetiously at all, but did residents council have any input to the flowers?
No.
Okay.
Weren't you redoing one on the very deep?
No, that's a different subject. That's actually the entrance landscaping.
Okay.
Yeah, not the edibles. Yeah.
Does the residents, it sounds like you're going to Monday, so maybe we missed this window, but are you guys planning on putting forth recommendations for?
That was the intent, but we need to build the base.
Okay.
We don't have enough residents,
Okay.
Yeah, typically, John and I communicate well, but I haven't heard anything about that, so,
Yeah.
resident input.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
It's hard, yeah. And if there was like a choice to pick from, as opposed
They're
to.
asking a lot now, huh?
Kind of. Well, it's better than asking everyone what you want, and you get 100,000 different answers.
okay, and then if you may have noticed, maybe not, but up front, we did lose a whole group of 7 palms. Don't know why, could have been a lightning strike, though I didn't see evidence of lightning. Why that group died, I have no clue, but they died. This picture is a little premature because they looked a lot worse than that before we took them down.
The ones that are in this picture here?
Yes, sir. They're at the center median right when you enter off of 56 onto Ancient Oaks.
Is it that fungus that we've had for a long time?
They don't believe it was a fungus. So I don't know why they're dead or why they died. They're no longer there. So, but just to bring that to your attention, that was a large group that we had to take down.
So, John, are we gonna put new ones?
Well, the plan, and we talked about this, and I don't think you were on the board at the time, we did talk about replanting palms. And there is a plan to do that. It's just funding through our landscape budget that we currently have. It's not extra funding. And we'll be moving forward with palm planting the new budget. So yes, are we gonna replace all 7 of these? Don't know. But the biggest thing to remember is that the palms that you replace are a lot smaller than the big ones that are out there now. So visually it will not be the same, obviously. In a center median, you don't have a lot of room to secure anything that I'm told by landscape contractors beyond 25 foot. They can plant a 25-foot palm with no secure situation, but beyond that they can't. So they'll probably be 25 foot, give or take, when they're replaced.
Is there consideration for the self-cleaning kind instead of kind of need to trim so much?
Well, I don't know if we want to change variety. That would have to be, I guess, really, if you're going to change that ultimate look, the board, probably something we would talk about.
Yeah, exactly, but I
These
just
are
wonder what the cost
Washingtonian,
would be.
aren't they?
Yes,
These are Washingtonian?
yes.
The only other ones that I would think would be great for the entrance would be the Royal Palms that have that more uniform umbrella and a better boot looking. I don't know how much more expensive they are.
Yeah, we got plenty of months to figure that out, so,
Yeah, just,
but next budget season,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it.
I'd be in favor of that, so.
Okay, the fountain resurfacing, I don't want to talk about that subject. I ended up finding a contractor that is capable of coming in and doing the work before budget ends. Everybody probably knows pool contractors are swamped beyond belief. And the contractor that I was working with is pushed out to February. So I was looking to utilize these allocated funds next season, but I probably don't have to do that. So we don't have to talk about this. So the refurbishing of the fountains is moving forward and should be finished, no problem, before budget turns over. Okay? Any questions on that? No?
The pictures you have of the 2 drainage issues
Yes.
that, it's confused by the language in that. You refer to, unlike Springwood Park, storm drain was packed with mulch.
Yeah,
Stillbrook Park was blocked with mulch.
there's a storm drain in the ground right there that just received through that 5-inch day we had, large influx of mulch from the beds, and it literally clogged the culvert. So the contractor that I brought in to clear this was able to clear it.
Okay.
So this doesn't require anything, it's already fixed.
Is there any way of putting an additional grate or something over it, or can prevent that from happening again?
Well, I don't know. These are the large metal grates, the super heavy metal grates. I don't know if putting any sort of barrier around it would prevent drainage.
Or rack a screen on it.
Yeah, you probably collect more silt
Yeah.
if we wrap it with some sort of fabric scenario. I don't even know how we would do that. A lot of the smaller drains we have are domed.
Yeah.
So it prevents that. But these are the large, heavy metal grates. I don't know of them being domed or even if that's feasible. So it's probably a one-off. I can't remember the last time this had happened. But I just threw it in there because we still have our issue in Springwood Park. But I have a contractor that has come in to figure out what needs to be done. And the only thing we can do at this point, because we've tried to blow the French drains out, it did nothing, is to excavate that park completely and see if we can manually unclog the existing French drain system, or if it is deteriorated or failed in some way, then it just needs to be replaced. Because it's still,
Plumbers do?
on the edge of this park, like all the parks that we installed the French drain system in, there's one outlet, but if you're blowing backwards, it then fingers off in multiple directions. And there's no snake that will follow that. They come in and they blow because there is a clean out access, and they blow it out, but that's clear. Something on this end is holding all the water in this park. So it's probably more than one of the French drains that have failed.
Or better.
Because there's multiple fingers under there. Because this park still looks like you see in this photo. It still holds water like a pond. So we already talked about this in the past, and the board authorized funds to move forward. So
We did it about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago?
yeah, 5, 6 at least.
Because it was with Stone Creek, right? It was those two, for Stone Creek and
No, we did the whole.
We did it all.
Yeah, we did the whole. I think there were,
Stone Creek.
Edenfield already had a drain system. I know we did Palmetto Bend, we did Stone Creek, we did Springwood. There may have been a couple.
Springwood was one of the first ones.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones. But it's already been decided by the board for the funds to move forward, but just so everybody's aware, that's the angle we're gonna have to take.
When do you think, the excavating is gonna happen?
I'm waiting on his timeline right now. So him and I have already talked, he's been out multiple times, but I'm just waiting on his timeline. So once I get that notice from him, I'll pass it on.
That was the same gentleman I met.
I'm sorry?
Same gentleman I met.
Yeah, the same gentleman you saw that day. Okay, that's all I have.
Anything further for John?
Thanks, John.
Okay.
A lot going on, especially with the weather, so keep it on the under.
Landscape company really behind.
And I assume they let to the opportunity to do the trees, booting of the trees for 16,000 versus 18.
That is correct. That's why we moved.
When I started looking at some of the trees, I was like, yeah, there isn't that much to trim on some of them, are pretty clear, so.
Wait till the back here happens. This will be a bombshell. There's a lot of trees back here. But it's getting done. It looks great personally, I think. I think it looks great. So.
I know I voted against it because of funds, but it's not because I don't like to look at it, I want to be clear. It's only a funding concept for me. So,
Right. We'll move into the clubhouse report then, 36.
All right, so I think we should start with Phoenix Pool.
yes, let's start.
So, obviously the board and the district and the attorneys know the issues, the past couple months. We did terminate his contract and we're seeking alternative methods at this point to get the pipe fixed and basically putting a Band-Aid over it until, we have to get really somebody else highly educated to come look at the project. I've called probably at least 15 pool contractors, and there's very few on commercial projects. Only 2 people right now are willing to do anything. The first company, Sharper Image Pools, they gave me a proposal just by looking at the photos that I sent them. But they have to come out here and actually look at what's going on. So right now we're looking at a $3,500 repair without them actually looking at what's going on. So I know we have to get that done, and somebody should be here next week to look at that. The other company said we have a bigger problem than we think we do. And that's the Pool Works. So a big commercial company, been in business many years. He was out here to look at, the site when there was no water underground, when there was water. He basically said that they can do the job, but it wouldn't be until January of next year. With that said, he said he's gonna get back to me when he comes back from vacation. And he's gotta take it to his boss just to make sure that that's something they wanna take on. A lot of companies don't wanna take on somebody else's mess. So right now, we're working with Sharper Image. Okay, anybody have any questions of that?
My question would have been for Vivek, who's in here, but is there a way we can file a claim on our general liability so we can go after the previous contractor's damage?
I think
And their insurance?
I think what we'd have to do is really look at what our damages are. And I know Teresa's been tracking everything, but we have to really put it together. And that there is a possibility that we could then go after our general liability. I mean, we could contact them,
Right.
and at the end of the day, they may want the contractor's insurance information to go back after. But we would have to, and you've been keeping a running total of different things, so we have to put all of that together, determine what our actual damages claim is. The final payment has not been made to Phoenix Pools, and that was one of the considerations as to how much damages we need to offset from any final payment due, if any is due. So those are some things that are still in the works.
Well, as I understand it, this pipe that is leaking underneath for whatever reason. It didn't use the right mastic or enough mastic or something that it.
No, the whole thing broke and then the whole thing just,
He didn't say
Cracked.
that.
I'm talking about that now, the one's buried.
yeah, that one's just totally cracked. The one on top is the one that doesn't look like it was glued properly. Now, I don't know if the board wants to start calculating all the losses we lost in cafe sales, cabana rentals. I mean, I don't know how far and beyond you want to go with this,
I would
but
say,
I have a running tab and it's pretty intense.
I would say definitely calculate that.
And then you're also looking at the pool service contract that we'd be paying him, and the pools have been closed. So that's another $80 per day that we're paying a contractor to service pools, because we have a contract with them that we're still paying for. So there's a lot of other,
I think the best answer is to add it all up and put it all down. What the insurance company actually comes back with and what we get is a different story, but if we don't ask, we won't get it for sure.
well, I can't really do that until this is fixed, because we're also still paying for
I think
fencing up, right?
that's
So
fair. Is there a
until it's
time
actually fixed,
Or
I don't know
limit,
if there's a time frame, but whatever we would do, we would take care of the immediate problem, and we should probably contact the insurance company to at least start a discussion, find out, and then put everything together. But you do wanna kind of get every US off the leaving, so it's like,
What did he get, $1 million or $2 million?
1 to 2 million.
$2 million, okay.
So, and so I just have a question, and this may be a question for you. So I was out here and I spoke with Chris from Phoenix, and just kind of based on the conversation I had, it doesn't sound like this company is doing very well. So if we were to go after him, what's to say that, we would get anything?
it would probably be an insurance claim, if anything.
Against the shirt that he put up.
But who says he has insurance?
So he should have insurance under the agreement, and we should have a copy of the certificate of insurance.
Well, all the more reason to get in touch with that insurance now,
Yeah.
in case he goes out of business or cancels his insurance.
Well, the insurance hopefully is an occurrence-based
Yeah.
policy as opposed to a claims made.
Sure. Yeah.
How do we go about doing that?
Sooner or later, so do you guys contact his insurance? What's the process?
I probably have.
Or do we contact our insurance
For
first?
that,
Don't we, I mean, we have his insurance information, we just make a phone call and say,
I just want to know who's we.
I can
it could be staff or.
It's called staff.
I don't know if it has a copy of the certificate.
Taylor.
I'll forward it, it
Taylor's
should be
not
in your
here.
docs, but I'll
Yeah.
I'll forward you a copy of his liability insurance.
When you get back from your honeymoon.
Yeah, after that.
This is a honeymoon list.
You can do that over honeymoon, on time.
Okay, so the second portion with the pool is the splash park. We all know some issues with that. So we got the quote from Compact Filtration, which is the company who also, we had some issues with the slide. But that's the only company that I can go to, because nobody else would put any parts on somebody else's park. So, we got that in the works. So,
Are we back to friendly terms with Compact? I thought we were butting heads with them. Were we not?
with the slide we were, but those are their features.
Right, but did we move past that, or are we still,
No, we have to use them to get these features fixed.
that's not, regarding the slide, right?
Well, the slide,
We were-
they have nothing to do with the slide anymore.
Right, we were odds with them,
Yes.
right?
But they make the boots that go over.
No, I get it, but are we in a position where we're withholding money from them, or we're expecting something, or we're lost?
No, they actually,
So,
according to them, they're giving us a discount on it.
but with the slide, I guess, it's still,
The
still
slide is
want to stick
nothing
with
to
the
do
slide,
with
okay?
Compact, yeah.
Because I'm just saying, if we throw up our hands and say, okay, it's not worth going after anymore, but we expected more, then I don't want to go back to the same vendor, or at least I don't expect something different.
Well, we have two options. We either get the boots from Compact Filtration, or we shut down the splash park and rebuild a whole new splash park. So
How much of the?
I made an educated decision to speak with Jack and say, let's put a Band-Aid on this one too, so we can get it up and running.
I mean, I know, obviously, the residents want the pull up, right?
$5,254.
Okay. Didn't we have that as a discussion point for replacing everything anyway?
If the tiles and everything fails, yes.
Gotcha. And what was the ballpark?
I think we were like 120,000. That's just for the features and all that stuff. But after talking to pool builders,
Yeah.
they said we would have to start from scratch. like you're building a whole new pool.
Gotcha.
You can't just replace the features.
So is it still, are we saying no matter what, even if we put this 5,000 on, we still have a 6-figure tag for that?
Well, we're hoping that will last a couple more years for us.
Okay, so we need to,
But we need to eventually plan,
for-
yeah, to knock that pool down and start.
But this is a safety issue now, there's an inch or so gap.
no, I get it, I don't want us to find ourselves having to close the pool down for a year because we don't have planned funds to do that reserve. So we're still in budget cycle right now, and we haven't approved the finance, so I'm just saying we should consider that. You know, if it's gonna cost us 6 figures in 2 years, we might want to put in an extra 50 for the next couple of years into the reserve fund to account for that. So, can you write that as a draft for us to vote for the CD for? When are we voting on the final, next month?
Yes.
So I think you guys should take a look at considering that, and see what the numbers be. Because we're basically at net zero right now, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah.
So 50K is only going to be 2.5% or something at the most.
You're talking about net zero assessments or the reserve fund?
The assessments.
Yeah, we're at zero right now.
So if you guys padded the reserve fund 50K a year, it's going to, it's not going to change it 0.5% or something. So you guys can look at the numbers next month.
The residents haven't gotten a final number what their assessments are going up, so they don't.
We haven't.
They've got to propose.
They haven't
You can't
proposed.
increase it at this
Well-
point. Yeah, you can't increase the assessment at this point. It's already been noticed and everything.
No, we can take out capital outlay funds and
Right.
reallocate to reserve.
But I mean, typically you guys contribute pretty hefty every year. This year it's kind of like we're not contributing because we're doing the pool heating and all that other stuff. But I mean, next year you can contribute again.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a couple of years out of the splash pad to contribute towards, you guys will be contributing again next year, so that we don't heat another pool.
Well, the 350 that we contribute every year is already kind of technically eaten up, right? And that's in our plan. So we really need to go to 400 for the next 2 years to add that.
I can put that's for next year. So next year's budget, if you want to do
Understand.
that, or unless you want to.
Or remove some from the capital.
Cut down projects.
Right, cut down on the project. I don't know. It sounds like a whole lot more than just a 6-figure. It sounds like $250,000, right? If we gotta rebuild that thing from scratch, so. But better start planning that reserve fund now for that, so.
And it can be pretty expensive.
Okay.
Anything else on the pool?
Thank you for all of your patience with working through the vendors and the feedback that you received, solicited and unsolicited. Thank you for your grace through all of that.
Yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow for sure. So that's another expense that we're gonna incur is once they do put the little Band-Aid on the piping, we're gonna have to get another leak detection done, so, before we open the pool. Ladies' restroom renovations, the only thing that's going on in there now is we're waiting for the lockers. Bathrooms are open. The cafe, the shades have been installed, everything's painted, we're waiting. I stopped the contractor from installing the flooring right now because I didn't want the cafe down. We already have pools down, so I'm kind of waiting a little bit on that. The funds are already there, so it's just a matter of when I'm gonna get to that. I called Greg Henry today to find out when he's gonna be available to redo the carpet. Haven't heard back from him, so that's still pending. He still hasn't received his final payment, so we're okay with that. Fitness center is open 24 hours, Monday through Thursday. We've gotten 23 swipe-ins after hours and a total of 13 people using it at this point. So we're gonna try to solicit more, and we're open.
And no funny stuff? Nothing bad?
So far, I haven't seen anything.
Did we change the security stuff?
I got extra cameras.
Okay, is that enough?
Yeah. Yep.
That's
We're
pointing
fully
right-
secured.
right direction.
Everywhere. Face recognition, everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's scary.
I think it does when people use it, it's a huge win. I don't, it doesn't people who couldn't use the gym after hours, so. Maybe I'm biased, but.
Is that true, Josh?
I don't know.
Yeah, people were excited about it.
I was just a good promoter for it, so if you came to me and told me one person was using it, I'd be like, oh, well, but I don't know if it does it.
We had a little problem with the alarms getting them at the right time and, but I've gotten woken up in the middle of the night a couple of times, so. yeah, it's like we'll solve that problem. Cindy on pool heating, so everything's been signed, first payment has been sent, right? They sent the invoices, so I guess the next step is we're waiting on permits. So then they'll start, I already asked them the impact, and that they can start, digging the well, even if the pool's closed, so they'll work around that. Or empty. We did terminate Stratus Cleaning Company, and the new company started as of July 5th. The gutter company, we had some leaks. They came out for repair, but then it started raining, so we're still waiting for that company to come out. I haven't seen them yet. And then the splash park we discussed. It's not on the agenda, but Illuminations Holiday Lighting, the company we've used for several years. He just gave me 2 new proposals because he said the pricing was going up. So the last couple of years, it was $17,000 to light up the neighborhoods. Eagleston, Summergate, Clock Tower, a couple lights here, the Palm, front entrance. To keep the same design and lighting that we want, he wants to charge us $26,500.
Oh.
So
he said he doesn't want the business anymore.
he said labors went up and so have his lights. So I am gonna get another bid. I got another contact today from Andy, so I will get another bid, but I don't want to have to come back and bring this to the board again. So I'm gonna ask the board, how high do you want to go? Or do you want less lighting depending on pricing? Do you want to give me a number to go with? I mean, honestly, I would only offer him $3,000 more if we wanted the same. I think
I
that's
would say 10
fair.
or 15% increase is unfortunate, but wouldn't be out of realm. But 60%
I wouldn't pay him
whatever
more
he's
than
asking is
$3,000
crazy.
for my personal level.
Yeah, that's. So how do we find more companies to get bids from? Because I think that'll help us narrow down.
Well, I got one contact,
There's not
not too many that.
Yeah, there's not too
commercial
many.
items.
Who'd you send her? Decorating house. I got another one to send you now.
Okay.
I think if we can get a couple different ones, that'd be great. What did they cost you, 26?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm okay with giving you the 26 approval, knowing that you won't spend anywhere near that, but the other, if that's just simply what it is, and everybody comes back to the same price, I don't change anything either.
Yeah, I think a not to exceed makes sense.
Yeah, not to exceed 26, and knowing full well you won't go anywhere near that unless you have to, right? I mean, I trust you on that, so.
I'll second that. You said 26?
Not to exceed it. Then that way you can.
Does it help you if we say not to exceed a lower amount?
Yeah.
Say that's my budget, that they won't let us. spend.
well, I'm a pretty good negotiator, for one, I think.
Okay.
So,
She can say that her boss says not to exceed.
No, I'm just saying, is it better if we say not to exceed 20 and then they come over?
Well, you don't have to, I mean, Teresa doesn't have to say anything. She can walk on the phone with them and say, we're not gonna spend more than X amount.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to know from the board, do you want the same extravagant display that we've had the last couple of years?
This deal should be done well before these minutes are even produced, so, you know, our lighting vendor is in the room right now.
What is this all including?
So it includes drip lights on the oak trees, is it those oak trees? Oak trees out there at the clubhouse, all the lighting at the main entrance. The palm, they do like a firework palm, the big palm. They do Summergate, Eagleston, and Mystic Oaks.
We got a list of comments.
And these are incandescent light, up lighting.
They have to hire lit, they have to hire lit.
Yes, yeah, they have a list down.
There's no up lighting back, it's all string. It's all string
It
lighting.
is labor intensive, I mean, it is.
Yep, I know they're there.
But I don't see $9,500 labor intense.
They're probably just struggling to find people now.
Well, yeah, that's probably.
So,
We've been a long-time customer, we use them repetitively, we're signing early. 10 or 15% increase is the max for the, you know.
You said illumination is one.
Tim Gay,
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send you the other one.
Okay,
So we got official vote on that, we have a motion and a second for not to exceed $26,000. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any opposed, motion carries.
Look, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
Yeah, you give me the look.
There you are.
I mean, 20, I think to exceed 26, I think 24, to be honest. I was in that.
Oh, she's not gonna.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying that's a big.
4 and 5. Right. Sorry.
And hey,
For the record.
And then I have one more, actually it's a non-resident request. So we have a membership, non-resident memberships and their user fees. So, it's $1,300 for a single person to purchase a membership here that doesn't live in Seven Oaks. So that was it per year. And we have a $50 per person per day, daily user fee. But there is a non-resident that would like to buy a membership, but he strictly really wants to play tennis, but he can't play tennis because the membership is single, so he can't invite any guests. So he was asking me if I can make accommodations. I said, well, I cannot make those type of accommodations because it's a policy set by the CDD board, so they can only be the ones to make revision to that. So I told him I would take it to your attention. If you wanted to consider a membership, $1,300 for tennis, allowing them to bring a guest so they have someone to do it with.
So just out of curiosity, because I've not been on the board that long, I know a couple members haven't. When we try to change any of these rates, we have to advertise and hold a public hearing, and there's costs involved with that. Are there any other rates that we need to be looking at? Because that, I don't know the last time rates were discussed, but that might be something, if there are other rates to relook at, we might want to kind of get those ideas together.
Well, we're not discussing, I don't think we're discussing the rate, we're just discussing if he's allowed to bring guests.
Well, I think you're already discussing the rate, it's just another rate line item with the. Right.
Yeah, the rate is set, that's the rate.
And that's a
Oh,
single
do we want to allow him to bring a guest, because right now our policy states no guests.
It's a single membership. So do we not do, like, if somebody wants a family membership, we don't do? Okay.
We did revisit that, just a couple years ago.
Gotcha.
And it was.
But when you buy a membership, don't you get the same rights as the?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that the guest policy is part of the rules and regulations, so that when there's a change to that, there's still, it's a rulemaking process. So you might still
So
wanna
you wanna
look
look at
at
rates,
other things, look at the guest
Yeah,
regulations.
well, I mean, on the surface, I think Jack brings up a very good point. If we are charging somebody for the ability to have a membership, it should be an entitlement to the same sort of membership as somebody that pays the fee to live in here. I mean, that would be appropriate, I think. In my opinion.
Well, but I think you don't go to Busch Gardens and pay for one person, your whole family, right, that type of thing, you go and pay per person. And so I think the logic is you want, you husband and wife, talking about whatever it is, I mean, if you want two people to come in and use the amenities, so it's $1,500 a person. What is it? $1,300 a year per person, and you can come in. Yeah, guest concepts, I understand where your logic's going, I just.
Yeah, because we
The
have to.
idea is resident versus non-resident, right?
We have to be able to substantiate that that's a reasonable rate. So just using it as a hypothetical, if it's $1,300, and if you were to compare the fees to join a club, use the YMCA and what their costs are, and now we're saying potentially a family of 4 would have to pay 1,300 times 4. I don't think we have good leg to stand on with something like that if somebody wanted to challenge it. So that, and to me, that's just the risk we run.
But you have to remember though that your residents are paying the assessments for the facilities, that non-members don't pay.
Correct.
And it is predicated on what we pay is how we came up with that the non-resident membership.
So Amy, to your part of following that logic though, residents pay more than $1,300 a year.
Correct.
And so they are paying a higher fee to get higher value.
Yeah.
So I don't know about the whole comparative to a local club or something, but I think we do have the logic of saying that as a resident, you're paying $2,000, $3,000 a year, and you can, therefore you get more than your $1,300 membership level, so. That seems logical there.
He would
I hear
probably
what you're
not
saying.
join, he would not join if he couldn't at least invite one other person.
Well, he wants to play tennis, so he can't play tennis by himself, so that's. I'm not trying to study
We have hundreds of residents.
I offered him a tennis ball machine, I did, but.
I mean, it'd be like a tennis only membership that comes with one guest.
Well, then we're adding, I don't know. It sounds like a path I have no interest in.
Yeah, I mean,
Is this something you guys will set for discussion for the next meeting?
I was
Or
just
something
for that, but you guys.
I don't know if you guys want to revisit.
Who else has tennis? Hunter Green had tennis courts. Who else has them around here?
pretty much most of the local communities.
The bigger ones do.
Lexington.
I'm wondering what they have.
Meadow Point.
Or you can just make a revision to the guest policy, and,
Yeah,
you know, no guests at the pool, one guest for tennis.
I mean, it's, at least in my experience, anecdotally, most communities do have, when you buy a membership, you're typically buying a family membership. I mean, that's just what you typically see, because folks, a lot of times they want to join so that they can use the pool with their kids, that sort of thing. And tennis might be another example. It was the first time I thought about the fact that somebody would buy a membership and to play tennis by themselves.
Yeah. I think most communities also have their appropriate number of clubhouses and sizes for homes, which Seven Oaks, because we had condensed the two CDDs and killed the clubhouse, do not. And so it's not necessarily that we have extra luxury.
Understand.
Capacity.
For your capacity, so that would be the only other things. It's not trying to be greedy with what we have, it's, you know, tennis courts are already one of the main topics that Teresa brings as a complaint to us anyway.
Completely understand.
Right? So like imagine, you know, the homeowners in here going, well, now I got one more person to compete against because you guys gave them the discounted rate and let their guests in. I don't know, it sounds like a path I wouldn't.
I've already told this non-resident too, we have a policy that, you know, you have to make reservations for tennis up to 3 days in advance. And I literally told them, people wait up until midnight to make sure they get that reservation.
It sounds like you're just inviting more.
So did this person buy already, or is he?
No,
He said he-
yeah.
I would recommend that he buys two, and then he can bring his guests.
Alright, so,
I don't know.
sounds like we'll move forward then. Yeah, we don't revisit that anymore. Teresa, you got anything else?
Now,
You just buy a house.
that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Buy a house.
Actually, these are Estancia, and they built their tennis courts, their lighting so short that they can't even play anytime.
He should write a complaint.
Glad
They're lighting.
over there.
I think that would help.
Move into the district council update this time then?
Well, the only update that I have is, and I don't know if Terry, you wanted to discuss this later in the agenda, I don't think I see it on here.
No,
We have been working on the RFP for landscape maintenance services. And I think we've come up with a pretty good draft of the RFP. Probably all have a copy of it. It's based off of, you know, a fairly typical RFP process. John has gone through it to see the specifics that would work for this community. And we've made some tweaks to it. The only thing that we have yet to add are the actual dates of if you would want to issue this, what the deadline should be, when you would consider this. A mandatory pre-bid meeting would need to be scheduled prior to the bid submittal. All of that is contemplated to take place here at the clubhouse. And the bid opening would also be here at the clubhouse. And then John would present whatever proposals were submitted to the board for consideration. So I don't know if this is something that the board members would like to take a look at, and you know, if there's any feedback, or if it's something that you think you're ready to move forward with and direct staff to go forward on.
Does this condense all of the existing sub-agreements that we have with the current vendor? So we have the main maintenance, we have trees, not the street trees.
Right.
But the other pruning trees, the
All-
mulching,
That is in there with the option of the district to use an outside vendor should they choose,
Well, that's okay.
which I think has been standard.
That's standard.
So we've always had that option.
Did we have a separate agreement with our existing vendor for some of the ponds? Did we add ponds?
There
Within
was
this
one
contract?
pond that was added that I'm aware of over here by the brewing company.
Yeah.
That was a small addendum to their contract.
Is that in here?
No, this is landscape. No, we don't mow that pond.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm catching on.
No worries.
No, we don't mow that pond.
Okay. I'm trying, because I know we kind of patched
Yes.
the current agreement up over the years with the kind of auto renew provisions.
Yes.
And so my curiosity is just, are all those condensed, obviously didn't have a chance to read all those pages, but
To my
in
knowledge, yes.
general, knowledge,
Yes.
Have any of the frequencies changed at all this year?
One thing we focused on, some of my comments that I added was minimum staff size. Because it has been pretty regular that we'll get 6 guys, 4 guys, 8 guys, then we get 15 guys. So one of the changes that I'm hoping to, well, it's in here actually, is to make sure that we require a minimum number, which is 15, I believe, the number we put in for the property.
Yeah, we don't want this every 3 or 4 months having a chain gang coming in to catch up.
Correct.
That's a good idea, yeah. Do we have a, just based on the existing contract and when it expires or when it auto renews, do we have a specific timeline that we're shooting for? I mean, obviously, with us being in the rainy, heavy growing season, and obviously moving into less growing season, we want to be careful of what our transition time is based on this taking a few months to kind of get through the process. Do we have kind of a firm deadline that we're trying to work with? Or an end point, I guess?
It was my understanding that this would be an October 1 agreement, is that correct?
Yeah, budget rolls over October 1, which technically ends their current contract. I have no clue what the stipulations are, if it then is a month to month, if it's not renewed at that time, I don't know. That would be Taylor's world. But yeah, October 1 is the goal.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I think we have a 45-day notice, if I'm not mistaken, too. I have to tell them, but, yeah.
And there is a scope of services that begins with mowing and goes into all the different types of lawn care. And again, this can be changed depending on what the board prefers. But there is a provision of mowing March 1st through November 1st, once a week, November 1st to March 1st, once every 2 weeks. Again, this is all in draft form. If the board needs it.
Is that what our existing is?
That's the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same.
I'm thinking, we probably need approval tonight in order to have the advertising, the timelines all met in order for this to be selected by the board in September, begin in October.
As long as this draft has the summation of all of our existing, because it's not necessarily that we need to replace the vendor, right? We're doing the RFP, because we're trying to follow a proper process on the renewal of the vendors and or selection of a new one. It's because we've been using the 1-year same price renewal, and they've been paying us that, but they've already told us there's a price increase.
When you say incorporates all the contracts, you mean the services or the locations?
I think it's the addendum,
Both,
right?
Yeah, any agreement we have with our current vendor. Because I think we're happy with those terms, right? We're not trying to modify those
That's
terms with the existing vendor. We're just trying to surmise those into one new contract, to get a new price from them and other people.
So I don't know if those additional scope of services were included and you reviewed.
Yeah, I will
those.
go through it again, just to verify that those are.
You wanna hold this back till next meeting if I can put some in your
I would agree with the contingency that John validates that.
Yeah, the only real change is taking the tree service out. Other than that, things should be consistent.
And that portion
Street tree
was,
service.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
street tree portion
Yeah.
was removed, with the other trees still included. And there will be a map attached to the final agreement showing the different maintenance areas.
Yes.
And I think the only other thing that you just added was the minimum of 15.
Yeah, that's already in there. That was put in, so that's current.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve based on John revalidating the existing addendums in which the existing vendor are all incorporated.
I'm sorry.
Motion by Josh, second by Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
So on the budget, is this under landscape maintenance and annuals and mulch, all of that?
No, it's the single line item, which is, 850, I think it was.
Yeah, it could be better.
Yeah, it's 850, because then we have a separate line item for mulch.
Yeah.
Annuals, so forth.
And our current agreement is only in the 7 something. But again, it's under kind of his goodwill has continued to give us the same price, knowing that we have to do this process. And, yeah. They wanted the money during COVID, except, it was a win-win for both sides, but now it's kind of the right size.
And we're still on for September to do the second trimming of the street
Yes.
trees.
Yes, street tree projects, the last trimming, mulching, and spraying, still September.
And after that, it'll be the residents' responsibility.
Yeah, whenever final, however you handle that transition, but yes, that'll be the last time we are supposed to touch them.
So now that we have an opportunity to rebid this, is there anything we're missing or had complaints on with the previous company or anything for landscape that you want to add to it?
Well, the biggest complaint we typically hear from residents is usually if it is visually declining. And that comes down to me in the number of bodies that they have here every day, or their lack of number of bodies to manage this property this size. So that's why the one stipulation of a minimum 15 crew members was incorporated into it.
But if there's anything else you want to add to it, I think now's the time.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go through and just make sure.
Yeah.
I'll take another look at it. But we've spent a lot of time on it already, in a bunch of different line applications.
That's it.
Or something going on over here. No, I think we're good.
All right, district engineer Tanya was not able to be here tonight. I think the only thing pending, from Tanya, one was a swift mud inspection that's already been done. We'll be for like the next 5 years, and the other one was the, traffic study on the speed table locations. She said that she, had the engineer out, she's willing to discuss with them now, so, I expect by the next meeting, she should have an evaluation on that. Is there anything that you would like me to bring back to her?
Will we look at adding 2 speed tables? Was it 2?
Considering two, yeah.
Was there preferred locations that we're supposed to put?
There was locations recommended, and she's gonna have the study done to evaluate one of those are the best options, or if we can move them, somehow. So. All right. Nothing further for the engineer. District manager update. Next meeting is our public hearing for the 7 Oaks Community Development District, Wednesday, August 11th, 2021 at 6:30 here. The Otero request that was approved last meeting for the tying into our drainage stormwater, they did end up sending us a check to cover the expenses of the district for legal expenses and engineering expenses. So that check's already been received and processed.
From the Rosetta side, is that like baked in now the future request to an auto ask for that?
We don't necessarily have a automatic, I don't think we really put a plan together with district council as far as all the requests. But
We've incorporated it into the letter agreement that was signed and returned, to state in there that would be a requirement of the approval. And assuming we go forward using that same standard letter, it'll be included in the future as well.
Okay, so the form letter is going to include it. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Cool. It's great.
All right.
That's really good.
And that total was about $1,100 and change, so significant.
Yes.
I would say.
Usually do a couple of a year, right?
We're not making anything up. Right?
No, we're not losing
Saving
out.
some money, though, yeah. Under tab 3 of the presentation of the financial statement, currently trending under budget, $488,140. I think we're all aware where we sit financially, now that's showing under, but that'll be expected in his budgeted for, so. I don't anticipate to finish the year under $500,000, but it's nice to see on the financial statement, though.
See it for a short while before
Yeah.
the end of your stuff comes in.
Right.
Just before you move on from that, I know last meeting, I asked for you to send me the because I think it was what, 70,000 that was spent from the reserve from last meeting. I took a look at it and, you know, I think we got some good projects lined up for this year, so I don't have a recommendation to kill in the current capital projects. They should still be good, but just kind of one of my parting notes for the reserve is right, just to make sure that stays nice and healthy. And it's not just that we have funds, but we have the S12, S19 discussions, and we do have $1 million offer sitting out there on one of those. So we need to make sure that we continue to have those funds, and some of those fights have been multi-year length. So reserve would be something very important to me.
Yeah.
So I know I always keep an eye on it. So somebody please keep an eye on it.
So, can you clarify what you were saying before about trying to pack away 50 grand this year and next? Where would you take that from? Capital.
I probably wouldn't take away. I think the projects are pretty good that we have this year. And considering the cost, right? So if we say in reality it's not 100,000, it's 200,000+. You really have to clear out most of the projects this year in order to eat that in 2 years, right? I would guesstimate it's going to be hard for you guys to, if we already put in 350 away, it's probably going to be hard to put 550 away next year, right? You're basically going to have 0 capital outlay projects next year if you do that, because usually about a $250,000 is what we spend on capital outlay special projects. So you can either make that decision on, hey, no special projects because we just got all these projects this year, right? That could be a call. And then you have the funds for the following year, or you split it in half of them.
Right.
So a lot of the projects that, almost all, except for the dog park, I think that's the only project that to me was expendable, type of thing. And the rest of them are long overdue. The residents want it anyway, right? So on top of those, plus the $300K for the pool heating, plus the $70K every last month, it's just, that reserve is going to go down pretty quick. We're going to see a nice, probably 30% dip in that. And that's okay, right? I mean, that's what it's there for, is a good reserve, but we just got to keep an eye on it. It's not always a well to go to, right? No pun intended.
Can someone refresh my memory on what projects or how much money that was approved in the pre-budget for all the projects for next year?
It's gonna take you some digging, I don't know.
No, I don't need it right now. Can you send it to me?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Probably something just to recall for the public record next month when you guys approve the budget, so everybody knows what they're getting for the increase of 0.
Yeah, a simple exhibit that kind of listed it off with dollars would be great.
Well, I just wanted to say, I did get one proposal in, for all those other gathering room, cafe, and all the other things I wanted to do. I should have brought this up, but I'm sorry I didn't. But, he gave me a budget of $189,493 to work with, kind of said. And that playground separate.
All right. Next we have a discussion of S12, S19. I don't know if there's any news on that, but.
No news for the public at this point. The meeting at the county was scheduled for July 9th, 8th, but at the last minute it got pulled administratively. There was also a series of errors, and now the county has unfortunately officially mixed S12 and S19 topics together. So they listed S19 as being SB Associates, that's the requester, which is wrong. So there were several administrative slips on the county's end. I think they needed some time to fix that. The only other thing that I would add is we were working with extra legal counsel, but DeBartello has already made the rounds with all the planning committee members and the commissioners, public records. So.
All right. Next we have a discussion on the pool filtration system replacement project. I think we've already kind of finished that. Same thing with the splash park, unless there's any further business on that.
Where do we have a computer installed?
Permitting?
For waiting for it?
Next, I have discussion on project management. I have requested to be added to the agenda.
Yeah, so Teresa, great job with everything you're doing. And I think you and I've had a couple conversations before. But I think from a standpoint of projects, within our community, I'm making a proposal that all projects, meaning Teresa, you still come up with the thoughts and the ideas, but all projects go through maintenance, either inside the clubhouse, outside the clubhouse. This way, vendors are being selected by John. He is in contact with them, making sure that the project is done on time, because it seems like lately, from what I've been seeing, we've had a lot of projects go rogue a little bit, and it's put a lot of stress on Teresa. So I'm kind of proposing that all maintenance, inside, outside, kind of geared toward John, with Teresa's vision.
Is the, I don't disagree with the general assessment. I'm curious to know, John, do you have this extra time, or are we just simply load balancing between two maxed out resources, and the answer is really more of a project manager that needs to be brought in to solve? So I don't know who needs to answer that, but I guess that's my. John, I know you have a full plate with all your stuff, so I don't know, just moving clubhouse, but John is the answer.
Yeah, listen, I have a full plate, but I think in a joint effort, kind of like Sean described it, I think it would be, I agree with you, that it'd be much more beneficial if I dealt with the contractor and their day-to-day or week-to-week needs. I can speak their lingo, no offense, okay? But I can speak their lingo to them, probably in a different manner than you're used to, just because of my experience, that's all. And it would take a heck of a lot of pressure off your world.
Correct.
Because I don't really want to be the guy that says that wall should be green and that one be white. You just tell me that, I'll manage it, I'll get you there. Kind of like we're doing with the pool heating company, because it was discussed that, I'll manage that, the operational side of the pool heating company, which nothing for me to do at this point since we're just in permitting. But when it physically comes to their boots being here on the ground, I'll be the one responsible for the timelines, the responsibility of them performing their contract as stated. So I'd be happy to take on that responsibility if no one has an issue with that, of actually dealing with the operational side of the contractor.
Teresa, is this something you want, need?
Well, it's always good to have us, I always, when I start having issues, I do go to John, I do go to the board, I do go to the district manager. So there is a lot of communication, and I think it's great that John also helps oversee that. And like I said, sometimes a man contractor, I'll approach them, and not saying anything of men versus women, but I'm educated. I know what I'm talking about before I go to a contractor. So if I address something the same way and John would address something, I feel they would have more respect for John than what does she know. But that's kind of how I feel with some of these contractors that come in.
Yeah, she's mentioned that.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's a man-woman. I don't know.
And it happened with when you and I.
Happened with Chris from Phoenix Pools. I was off one day, and my assistant, I asked her to go out there and check out and see what he was doing, and he yelled at her. And she's, there's no respect with some of these contractors with a woman. I don't know. That's just my experience.
So is this something that we need to formally take off of your plate to put to John?
No, I still want.
The two of you work together on the projects.
I would like to take the contracts to John, and I would like for John to also review the contracts to see if I'm missing something maintenance-wise, the way it's worded, what we have to put in it. Obviously, we send it to Vivek. But I would like also John to help, as the process is going, when I see certain things, scenarios, maybe I'll ask John to address them and not me.
As long as you guys are okay to working as a team, I don't have a problem with that. I think formally saying Teresa can't do it and John has to, I feel like is a little strong. But if you guys are just saying work collectively as a group, I'm sure. But I still have the questions if you guys are maxed out even with that, especially with the good number of projects they have this year, and you need an additional help to PM some of those, then I think
And
that's
we have
fair for us
liaisons,
as
I
well.
mean, we do have board liaisons.
Sure.
as well,
Well,
so, I mean,
One thing that is particularly the school thing that's happened, since we can only meet once a month and we can't share the information back and forth, it basically comes down, is this something that can wait 30 days or do we have to make a decision now?
Yep.
To do it. And then 2 or 3 instances, we've gone ahead, like in the pool, we've already told them, go ahead with $3,500 fix out there. It wasn't worth holding it up from that standpoint. Or the $5,000, we're not supposed to go over 5,000 without board approval, but it was what, 5,200? It was just a couple dollars over, so it was, it's better that we get moving on that. That every day we keep holding that pool, that place pool closed, it creates more pressure on her. Residents get on her, so I didn't want to hold that up.
So what's the net request here? Do you guys feel like you need a project manager part-time to help with stuff, or is it just the two of you teaming up and just shifting a little bit of how you guys?
What I would request is that I would take a much more active role in the ideas that come out of Teresa's world for upgrading or adding or doing whatever she's doing to the club area. Some of the prime examples I'll give you is this gentleman's proposal. How much was this? 189, whatever it was?
Yeah.
This gentleman's proposal is a super padded proposal because he has no clue what type of countertops you're gonna bring in, what type of flooring you're gonna bring in. He has no clue on the material he's even gonna use.
Well, I asked him to give me a high-end budget for higher-end projects, and then we can swindle it down.
Yeah, so I personally would have taken the other route of picking my material first, or having a design architect putting together a spec. So now here's your spec, Mr. Contractor, and then this contractor has the same spec, and this contractor has the same spec, and they all bid on that one spec. Because bringing in one guy today and the other guy tomorrow and say, hey, walk through here and tear out this floor, put up that wall and do this, they're all gonna be different. If you have a spec put together, and they all bid on that one spec, but here's all the specs. You have everything you need. Give me a price on that. So they're all bidding on the same exact thing. This is a walkthrough with about 190,000, because he has no clue even the material that he's going to be using in these jobs. He has absolutely no clue. Nothing against him, he just doesn't know. We haven't gone that far. So it would have been much more beneficial to take the other angle, figure out exactly what you want, put together the spec, and then present it to the contractor.
So it sounds like you guys are in agreement, you guys are okay working together on this.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we have no problem working together. That's a non-issue.
I would hope that maybe, because we've done a little of this in the Silva organization, of trying to farm out some projects to get some committees that are not board members. In other words, if we could find 2 or 3 contractors that live here in Seven Oaks, and we get that can act as a sounding board to go over proposals, that's not biased, it's not their other, other business, but residents here that can give some expertise. Because I don't feel adequate to go up against some of the proposals that we get. I usually can smell when this padded and way too high, but, I'm not an expert in that field. But if you have a couple of people that are approved by the board to be sounding boards for you, I think we could help us try to find a couple of people if we can.
Well, I think that's a great idea because you do want people who know and it's beneficial to the district. But what it would require is that those deliberations and discussions actually take place in a more public setting because it really is verging on the point of a subcommittee or a committee of the district. It's not that it can't be done. What's difficult about it is making sure that the deliberations are in the public and that minutes are kept, that kind of thing.
Well, the summary of their discussions could be presented in a board meeting. But they,
Their discussions, if they're acting on behalf of the board, that subjects them to the sunshine law.
So they'd have to do exactly what we do, is have a meeting, publicize it, take minutes, have an agenda.
But we're probably going off on a bit of a tangent here, because it sounds like what I'm hearing is we've got a really good start with our two staff members working as a team. You know, obviously bring the best of both sides together, and that should get us a ways down the road, probably better than we are now as separate silos, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree.
So we've got an agreement there, sounds like, direction of staff, John, on the form.
So make sure you guys don't talk to each other at all. Yeah, of course, right, yeah, that's great.
So moving on then, the moment everybody's been waiting for, tab 4. The farewell of Mr. Joshua Green. John.
I don't have a big speech planned, you guys saw my letter. No, it's been an honor, I love it. I wish legally I didn't have to resign, but because of moving out of the district, I have to, so I have no other choice. Take out the back, so we'll see. That's all I got.
Thanks for your time.
Agreed, thanks.
Do we need to vote on that or something? or-
Yeah, so we'll take a board,
Can
motion.
I make my motion to resign?
I don't know, the best I can make is a motion.
I think you're resigning and the board is accepting your resignation.
Understood, all right. Cheers, gentlemen, thank you. I'll move out there now, so not very good to see.
Take your name, please.
Oh, there's a third one. I have the other one here too. Teresa, have you all set up?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a motion and a second and acceptance of Mr. Green's resignation.
I'll second.
What do I need a motion? It doesn't count.
I motion,
Despite my best effort.
I second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
With that, tab 5, we have 4 resumes for potential new board members. I believe we have 2 here, Mr. McBride, correct?
Yes.
So we have Mark McBride and Dilip Desai, thank you. Present with us tonight. All 4 have been invited. I know Mr. Rhodes said he was not going to be able to be in attendance. Ms. O'Donnell, don't quote me yet.
I'm right here.
Oh, it's fine, okay.
I'm just cleaned up in the picture.
You don't have glasses. Wait, I'm looking and I'm like,
Okay. All right, so then we have 3 here. Thank you for joining us as well. So at this time, I'll open up for board discussion, and if you guys wanted to Q&A the folks that are here, we can do that at this time as well.
I think last time we just do it. Just if you want to stand up and say why you want to join or whatever. We did that last time and then we asked them to leave.
Sure. If you guys want to present for a moment or introduce yourselves.
I can start if you'd like.
Sure.
Thank you for having me. I did submit my resume of interest to be part of the CDD board. I have to be honest, I was hoping to learn a little bit more before that opportunity had presented itself. But I am reliable. I am here pretty regularly watching. I like to voice my opinion when I can, and at the same time, I find that being a member of the audience, as you move through the process of the meeting, I find myself kind of biting my tongue a little, going, I have an opinion, but usually keep it to myself. I've lived here since 2017. I am very active in the community. I am the funny socks runner that kind of cruises the community, and I like to kind of sit there and talk to people as I go and see what their thoughts are on the community, and kind of talk about some of the projects that we had coming up and getting their information and what they were interested in. So needless to say, I think I would kind of bring that perspective. And going back to my education, I have a master's in library information science, which is more of a research degree. And I find that regardless of the industry I'm working in, I'm able to leverage that. So even if I'm not familiar with something, I'm able to take that degree and kind of work it into whatever industry really I'm supporting. So that's it.
Thank you. Mr. McBride?
All right, Mark McBride, I've lived here about 7 years, and I've been very active in the community. I started with the school rezoning issues, and that actually started one of our Facebook pages. It evolved to that. We engaged the Board of Education and the district officials, and I think we were very successful in doing that in a polite and dignified way, which wasn't something that was actually transpiring at that time. I also worked on some apartment issues, as well as I'm on the SOCA board currently, where we just recently undertook the webpage project, trying to bridge our community and make it look like we're all one entity to some degree. So why do I want to be on the board? I basically have 3 reasons. First is Josh, we owe you a big thank you. These are very big shoes to fill. I think it's pretty fair to say, to echo what John was saying, is he stepped above and beyond for this community. No matter what was going on, Josh was always there. And so I think we need a high degree of commitment. I'm excited to see interest in other people too, which was my number 2 reason, is I want to give you guys options on who you feel is going to be best for this community and also for the issues moving forward. Which is the third point, is I think that Seven Oaks is really at a crossroads in that, when I moved here 7 years ago, we were the top dog in Wesley Chapel, and there was really no comparable community. And now there's a lot. And so the decisions we make today is going to determine what we look like 10 years from now. And we do need to retain our property values, whether it's the apartment issue or the infrastructure that we're investing in and the recreational amenities for this community. And all these things I think are very, very important. On a personal note, I work for one of the nation's largest healthcare enterprises, and I oversee their assisted living operations. So I cover buildings in 11 states. I'm used to fairly large budgets, but that's basically my degree of interest. I thank everybody for their time, and again, I think you have great options here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Desai?
Yeah, my name is Dilip Desai, and I'm the first owner of this. I own this house since 2004. I was settling between Toronto, Tampa, and I moved to Michigan in 2008. After that, I am here, full-time kind of. I like this community. You guys are doing an excellent job. I have no better words than what I can tell you, that we have dedicated team, board, Teresa. I don't know John, but now I know who John is. But with I'm kind of semi-retired. I work only 3 days a month, but I have so many activities, and I feel like I may not be able to do all the commitment what is required. I'm a ISO 9001 lead auditor, quality system, and tremendous 28 years in that field, total 46 years in quality assurance. But I think we have other candidates, and I'd rather step down before I step up. And if anybody need any help, I'm always available. But look like I cannot be able to share the time. You guys are very focused. When I spent 2 hours today, I see there are quite a few important topics. And I compliment you big time. And John, I think you have a tremendous team.
Thank you.
I see them here and there, and I tell them that you guys have done a marvelous job. But to keep this property Seven Oaks in this entire area, the board has to be strong, and dedicated people has to be in the board. And I see that. And you guys are spending your own time coming here. Not only that, you have to think before coming here. You have to do a lot of other things. So just want to thank you very much. And thank you, sir, I think you have tremendous input. Sorry you are moving, but I don't think you will be moving out from this. So that's what I can say, that you will find some equipment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Board, do you have any questions for our applicants?
Would the board allow me to give the standard information about the Form 1s and other public official information prior to?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure that each of the applicants is aware that this is a public board. It's a local governmental entity, just as a city or a county. It's just a smaller local governmental entity for the residential side of your community. But with that, that means that each board member is now a public official. You're subject to state laws regarding what we refer to as the sunshine law, meaning that no conversations can be had with other board members outside of a board meeting. There are ethics components to this where you can't be involved with voting on, if you have a voting conflict, if you have your job or any other financial interest in a company that does business with the district. There are public record components, meaning that all of the emails or correspondence that you receive regarding the district business is open to the public. And on occasion, there are public record requests for that information. And there is a requirement that each year, each governmental official from the local level all the way to the top of the state of Florida files a financial statement, which doesn't go into the details of your finances, but it does require that you disclose the primary source of your income each and every year, which follows with ethics guidelines through the state of Florida. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of that, because I have seen board members appointed find out about these provisions in the law and say that they're not interested anymore. So I try to let applicants know at the front end.
Everybody still in?
Yeah.
All right, that being said, any questions or nominations?
I think what was mentioned was, I know obviously the potential candidates don't have to leave, but if, just so that we could discuss it a little bit, if they wouldn't be averse to it.
Sure.
We'll give them a pizzelle.
We'll get an ice cream out of that.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you. They're all going on YouTube now.
Can you stand in front of them?
I'm happy to give my comments since I.
Citation and ethics regarding versus Snyder.
So my thoughts are we have 3 good candidates, we now have 2 good candidates, it sounds like. My initial impression was both Lauren and Mark have come to many of our meetings, we've seen them, and a lot of people don't come, I mean, obviously. So to me, when you have a situation like that, you want to, and we have a couple community organizations, HOA as well as the CDD. So you want to encourage people to join these types of boards. So I think Mark is great. My only thought would be, since he's already on the HOA, we want to make that net wider, get more people involved. So that would push me towards saying that Lauren is an excellent choice, not only because of that reason, but they both have great background. And they both bring 2 different things to the board, so I don't think we can go wrong either way. I just think, once again, if we can make the pool of people between the 2 boards larger, I would advocate for that, because that would encourage other folks in the community that, sometimes we get in situations where folks in the community say, it's the same old people running these boards, and, no new people get on, and I think, and that's nothing against Mark, because he's, does a great job on the HOA, and he certainly has contributed at these meetings many times, but that's my general thoughts.
I was about to say honestly.
Yeah, I was thinking on the same lines too.
I just
third.
I do think it helps just to have diversity of thought and all that stuff. So I think that was my, when I initially looked at resumes and all that stuff, she does come every week. I think that says a lot. I really like Mark, but he's also a little bit controversial because he's been very loud on social media, which is, I think, good. I'm usually on that side, not that he has to be on that side. But I'm just saying, he's already doing a lot with those things, and I agree with adding more people to the mix of who's volunteering in our community and all that stuff. So I love Mark, honestly. I advocate for almost everything he puts out there, but I just think just having somebody, now we already do have one SOCO board member. I think I would prefer to go to the opposite.
Yeah, and I think, I think when I first came on board, she came to a meeting and she was like, I'm just here just to learn. So for me, I think she's very open to learn and to understand what we do, so.
And Jack, you can't comment. I'm kidding.
I'm looking at Mark to be a good replacement for me when I leave. Let like wine, let him stay in the cask for a little longer. I think this has something to do with optics too. We did have one female on for a couple of years, about 4 or 5 years ago. And I've had people mention to me that you're just a bunch of old men up there. I guess they're talking about me. But I don't believe in diversity for diversity's standpoint. I want to have qualified people come and can contribute. And so I'm kind of impressed with her. Her background isn't real technical. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what she does, but she presents herself well. And I think she'd be easy to work with. So I would,
Seems unanimous.
Yes.
If I could just, if you'd allow me, as a resident, not 2 cents. I agree with everything you said. That the one thing that hasn't been discussed is some of the current things that I had on my plate. You guys have to redistribute that, of course, but like with S12, S19, which are critical, not that has to be the deciding factor. But Mark has been in almost every single one of those meetings with the county and also with our external legal representation. So he is well versed in our current position on all of those. So I just want to make sure you guys are very clear on that.
I agree with that. I did like his comment too. He said we have good candidates here, so I think that's one of the purposes of him coming, just to make sure. Because when I first showed up here, I was like, I don't even know if there's going to be anybody else to show up because it's not been that popular in the past sometimes. So.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Want to make sure somebody's got to take on S12 and 19 now.
Yeah.
And out of the two, Mark would be the clear choice. I think you guys would agree with, but only for that topic. But everything else you guys said is accurate.
but he can have to be on the board to be part of that.
Well, the decisions are for you guys to appoint him.
Well, he would still kind of have the same role that he has now.
Yeah.
So to speak, as long as we reassign him internally.
So how does this work?
Make a motion.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve one.
I'll second it.
To approve, I'm sorry. Lauren? Point, I'm sorry.
You really like it?
Hold on. Who seconded? Andy, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna be honest. We'll go. Chairman, would you like to announce the honors? You want to announce?
That's it.
You want
to announce?
You're the chairman. I can do it.
Okay,
So Lauren, you've been appointed to Mr. Green's seat. Thank you. You want to take the open seat up
It
here?
just doesn't feel right. He's here. Well, thank you.
Mark, we still want to work very close.
Or if you're okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you the oath of office once you're settled here.
Sure.
Officially. All right, I'm going to say I'm going to have you state your name, I'll read the rest, and then just simply say I do it again. I,
Florida Dow.
citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America, and being employed by or an officer of Seven Oaks Community Development District, the recipient of public funds as such employee or officer, do hereby solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida. Thank you. I'm going to present you with this to sign. There's also going to be a supervisor questionnaire behind that. It's just generic information, so I have all your contact info as such. Form 1, this is what Vanessa mentioned as far as your financial interests. And the W-9, are you going to be accepting compensation as a position? Most do. When I say most, I mean all do.
If you don't take the $200, we split it.
Yeah, we'll split
Look, I have to talk to my accountant.
So the W-9 is going to come to, actually, all these are going to be except for the Form 1, you'll submit to the state yourself. Okay. I don't expect the W-9 now, but if you could just spell the first two, at least, so that I can notarize this one. And then, do you have
I hope not. Let's see.
pen? No, it's in your mind.
My mom died.
And welcome to the CDD board. Next under tab 6, board members, you have the consideration of the minutes of the supervisors meeting held on June 9th, 2021. I did have one request from Vanessa that we spelled her name correctly. So with that addition, I should be looking for a motion to approve unless there's any other changes that you wish to be made.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Under tab 7, consideration of the O&M expenditures for the enterprise fund for May 2021 in $5,172.21. No questions or concerns, looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion by Sean,
I'll say.
second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
That's yes, our voting now.
Can you see it?
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under tab 8, you have the O&M general fund expenditures for May 2021, in the amount of $259,735.15. No questions or concerns, look for a motion to approve.
I didn't see anything here. I'll motion to accept.
Motion by Jack,
I'll second.
second by Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brings us into supervisor requests. Start again, I guess, Tom, you have a supervisor request?
No.
No, Andrew?
I was just gonna say, Josh, obviously, thanks for your service. You're one of the reasons I wanted to get involved because I saw that the board was run very well. And, working in the industry, I wanted to kind of lend some support there. And that's a lot of what I heard about, what you were doing for the district. So it's greatly appreciated. And it will be missed. And Mark, I want to thank you for obviously applying. You do a lot for the community and that's immeasurable. So appreciate that as well. And Lauren, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. I reiterate those. I hope I can bounce some ideas off you, Josh. If I can keep.
Well, we can talk now.
No, we can talk. I did want to follow up something that Patrick mentioned when he was here, Mullen. He wrote me an email, and I lost some, I had some computer problems, and I couldn't resurrect the email. But I wish there was some better way of communicating with our people. Phone tree system, or he said that he was talking about getting emails. We've never had a concerted effort to try and elicit emails from our people. The President's Council had tried to, there are some neighborhoods where key people know just about everybody in their neighborhood or has their email. Now, knowing that some people don't have computers at all, but if we could initiate some type of a program to get more contact information on people, that we could send out notices.
We
have that, right?
We have constant contacts, which is just an email blast when they send our newsletter, but.
But from a
Yeah,
CDD perspective, we want to be careful about creating public records with people's personal emails.
Right, because that email information could be requested in the public record, and that would subject that technically an email is already part of the public record once it's been used to communicate with the district. But to keep a list of emails, a lot of CDDs don't do that, and what they do is HOAs tend to do that, and then the district will talk to the HOA and have the HOA send out the district information through that email blast, because a lot of people don't want that information. The same thing would be about a phone tree system, because the phone numbers would then become
public record.
So how do we do it now currently with the CDD newsletter?
It was approved through a vet, we talked about it, and they have to sign up for it.
They have to-
approve it.
Yeah, they have to, sign up to accept notification.
But isn't that what you're saying most CDDs don't do?
A lot of CDDs don't because the people in the community don't want their information to be subject to disclosure on public record requests.
Yeah, so currently with ours, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we give ample warning that, you know, if you submit your email, could become, I don't know the exact word, but it could become a public record. And, you know, if folks are uncomfortable with that as far as having some sort of master list, as exactly as mentioned, pretty much all the CDDs that we work with, they work through the HOA because quite frankly, the HOA gets updated information a lot better than CDDs anyway. And, you know, the CDD news or items becomes a footnote to an HOA newsletter or an HOA broadcast.
Well, I know a lot of times when we get AMRs in, we can't communicate it back to them because they send it in by mail and they don't give it a valid email address. So there is a pocket of people out there, and not necessarily old people, that don't have computers. But it's surprising to me, but they're there. But they'd be the ones that would argue that they're not informed, you know? So, okay, I'll take that as a no for us, but maybe I get with Amy, we can get something worked out where we take it up as a social issue, not a CPD issue. Okay.
Sean?
No, Josh, thanks so much, man. I appreciate everything you've done for the last 12 years.
Literally 12, yeah, board for almost 7.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mark, thank you. You do a lot, man. Especially with that outcome zoning of schools. So, thank you so much.
Sorry, nothing to say.
Lauren.
I'm looking at Brett. Lauren, is there any supervisor requests you have this time?
Not really, but thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. It's been nice watching kind of what goes on in the last few months, so. Appreciate the opportunity.
Before you get a motion, can I ask, who will be taking over the S12 and 19 discussions? Because I should let our legal counsels know that.
How much effort is that?
Not
What are we signing up for? Yeah.
It depends on what stage you're at with it, right? S12 is actually, I think, on your plate right now.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do that. I mean, I've got the relationship with Craig and Crown folks. So
Right, so I
I don't
think
have an issue with that.
12 is just basically waiting for them to confirm the agreement we've already agreed to formally. 19 is a very different beast, and you've got some very important meetings coming up, so it will definitely be some pretty significant work. At a minimum, whoever takes it, I would recommend teaming up with, definitely with Mark. I'm happy to volunteer time as well, but I would say, Mark's probably one of the most in-the-know residents that we have right now that's been privy to stuff that may not be in the public realm at this point. But I mean, somebody with authority needs to obviously take that on and step up. That's going to show power at the county meetings.
They're gonna reschedule the date, set a date.
No, I have not seen that. Right now.
I don't know if I can.
So when you say a lot of work, what do you mean, like time there?
Yeah, so, on those days, you probably got a full day, right, for sure. You gotta meet with the council, you gotta review your strategy. So definitely a full day type of thing. Meetings goes anywhere from a couple hours to a half a day itself. There's definitely, and I would say I probably spend a good 30 or 40 hours that week just making sure that all my points ready, what I'm gonna say during my 3 minutes, because the county puts a timer on it and buzzes you off if you're out of that. So there's not insignificant time calling all the individual county commissioners, building relationships with them just in general, but also on the specific topics, which have to be public records. You've got the planning committee members, you have 5 members of the planning committee, you also have to do the same thing as for. There's a significant amount of time. I mean, you can turn it all over to the attorney. But maybe I was a little more hands-on than maybe, others, but, you do have, attorneys that you're hiring, but, they're basically just doing what you're saying, right? So if you're not, I always kind of felt like it needs to be my strategy, and I'm just using them as tool in my toolbox, right, type of thing. So I don't want to turn over my strategy to them, I want to own my strategy, so.
Like, I mean, I would be willing to take it on, but I would probably need just a little assistance.
I could probably help with something, I just don't think it compliance wise enough, but I'm allowed to do that. So,
I can toe the line with borderline annoying. I have a great way of doing that, so I can help.
One person has to own it, so.
Yeah, of course, you guys like talking to
They can
meetings.
collaborate outside of these meetings.
do we need?
Well, we got a month respite just for the fact that they don't have their act together, I think.
Josh,
I don't know if I would say this, I don't think you do, because you have 5 planning committee members you gotta meet with, and you got 5 commissioners you gotta meet with. And if they schedule it for next month, you're not gonna have time to really get in their calendar, so I really don't think you have much time.
What exactly are we negotiating on our end?
Whoever owns that, I will share those details with.
Can I get with you?
If you don't, sure. Absolutely. I'm happy to share the information. We're in a public meeting, so I'm gonna hold back some things.
If I can get with you.
But whoever's gonna own it, I'm happy to bring it up and synchronize with, absolutely, for sure.
I guess it's kind of leaning toward me now.
Well, so I'm have all the confidence in the world with you taking the lead on it. If for the only challenge is if for some reason it doesn't work out, you've got to wait to the next month to say, hey, it's not, somebody else has to take it, that sort of thing, but I don't think you'll have an issue.
All right, I'll take it on.
Okay.
You got it? Yeah. All right.
No pressure.
No pressure. I need to get up now.
Oh, there's another one?
It's a secret.
All right, with that, I think everything is complete. Look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll let you know.
I'll second it.
Motion by Tom, second by Randy, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, meeting adjourned at 4 p.m.
When do you actually move?
Did you see that?
In case-
I don't know.
Right.